This episode of LA Meekly brought to you by... Do you ever feel like laughing? Maybe having a good time? A few jokes here and there? Obviously you do! Since you're already listening to us! What if we told you there are others like us and you? Funny, informative, full of jokes.
Sleeper cells.
Incels. Manchurian candidates waiting in the shadows. There are. And it's Jonathan and Sergey from the Martini Lounge podcast. There it is. With interviews from actors, comedians, musicians, and other industry professionals, you'll get fun stories, inspiring tales, and of course, jokes that half land. Those are good odds.
Yeah, anybody who listens to us is already, that's their taste.
If you're listening to this, you've already half landed. New shows come out every Friday on jonathanandsergey.com. That's JONATHANANDSERGEY.com.
That's not the alphabet that I remember. It's all jumbled up.
So they're there, and wherever you find podcasts, you can listen to them. It's a podcast you should listen to. We were just on an episode of it that's going to be coming out May 3rd.
And it was a lot of fun to record with him. We got along swimmingly.
Yeah, we swam.
What I'm trying to say is we swam. We went to the YMCA.
So there's some jokes that half land.
No.
Some jokes are sink or swim, and these ones are...
sink or sink. In these waters, it's sink or sink.
Our jokes are heavy, and unfortunately, they're landing in water. But yeah, we were on an episode. We talk about making this podcast. There was a lightning round at the end about different questions of Los Angeles. That made me so nervous, but it was a lot of fun.
I'm still coming up with good answers, and it's been 2 weeks, and I've been like, I should have said Clifton.
But yeah, listen to all their episodes. But ours is coming out May 3rd. If that's what your introduction wants to be, listen to it. It's a good podcast. Yeah. Have fun. And
really
now,
funny guys.
Greg, I'm wrapping it up.
Oh, we were doing I should have got it in earlier, huh?
And now the rest of our show. Now our show, not the rest of it.
I gotta
the beginning of it.
I gotta go. Ooh, I gotta go. Ooh, no, I gotta go.
I'm sick of LA. The smog, the traffic, the Tim Allen TV show tapings, the traffic to get to the Tim Allen TV show tapings. We're going to hike this mountain and get away from it all and get back to nature.
I couldn't agree more. We really need to get away. Trees, fresh air, even fresher scat. We need to reconnect with the wilderness, and by doing so, reignite our love for the city. And I can't stress this enough, this is a good thing for us. This seems like a good spot to set up camp for the night, right?
Been hiking for 10 minutes.
Yeah, but I think we made good progress. I don't even remember what the city looks like.
We're still within range of my car clicker, look.
You think it's safe to go further?
We're getting away from all those bad things we knew back in the city. The further we are from civilization, the closer we are to who we really are, and that's good mountain people.
This seems good.
What?
This seems good.
Why are there so many people here?
We're in line for the Tim Allen TV show taping. This seems good.
I can't see anything.
Yeah, we're in the smog belt. This is where all the city's smog lives.
Can't stay here. I can't even see what I shouldn't be breathing.
Well, I've heard about a spot about 10 steps to the left that's supposed to be pretty good.
I can't keep lugging this bag on and off every time you think we found a good spot. The weight of this thing is murdering my back like it's the head chef of a hotel checking in on the winter caretaker.
What are you carrying?
Just my Axe typewriter in case I want to finish my book and my history of alcohol abuse. Why?
I don't want to speak too soon, but I think this is A-okay.
It's freezing.
Sweater weather.
Dink.
Oh, my nose fell off.
I don't think we're going to be able to make it any further. If we don't turn back now, we're not going to have enough food to last us the way home.
I can't hear you. I'm eating the last of the pastrami too loud.
Believe he finished the pastrami. Then he accused me of finishing the pastrami? I saw him. I swear to God, I saw him. He ate the pastrami. No! He is pastrami. And I'm gonna chop him up into a sandwich and eat him. Oh, Greg.
Uh-huh.
Come here, Greggy Pumpkin, my little cupcake.
Never called me that before. Are you feeling okay? Is it the altitude that's getting to you, or is it the hunger?
It's a well-known fact that pastrami goes straight to the butt.
Oh dear! I better do some squats.
Get over here and give me a slice of that butt.
What?
I'm going to slice a piece of your butt with my axe and eat it.
No, I'm not following. I don't understand. Ow! You chopped my cheeks!
I'm not gonna hurt you. You didn't let me finish.
You did it again! Quit it! You're hurting me! P-22 with the mountain lion! He's here to save us. He's got a barrel of bourbon around his neck. Oh no, he drank it. He's getting high on his own supply. He's drunk and he's a mean drunk.
Oh.
He's passed out. We can sneak up on him and eat him to survive.
I'm not eating a cat. I want that butt. I feel much better now.
Well, you've eaten my butt. I hope you're happy.
And I was happier than I've ever been.
Stop telling that story. Ow, my nut butt. Hi.
Hi.
Nice to see you here. Hi.
Hi, everybody.
We're the afternoon podcast. We like to record in the afternoons,
Yeah,
but
welcome to-
it gets released later tonight after hours. That's
Welcome
what
to
I wanted to
Noon
say.
Drive with Silky and Smooth. And we hope you like the dulcet sounds of our esophagi.
We're going to say relaxing words all day. Tranquil.
Cellar door.
Sleepy time tea.
Rock and roll!
No, I wasn't ready. Until 2 p.m.
Not till I've had my afternoon tea can I talk about rock and roll.
All of it. Bo Diddley, Buddy Holly, all the greats of rock and roll.
All the
heavy
greats that
metals.
start with B. I only got that far in my rock and roll alphabet.
There's the Allman Brothers. There's Alice Cooper.
All the way from Alien Ant Farm straight down to ZZ Top. Welcome to episode 65.
We've made
Is
it.
It is 65.
It's 65. I checked.
Okay.
I asked our producer. He's like, yeah, it's 65.
We should have saved 65 for the freeway episode. Speed limit 65.
Yeah, we should have.
We can't podcast 65.
Well, based on the title of this podcast, we don't have foresight.
Are you doubting my gift of the second sight? You know, I was born with a caul on my face. Well, look.
Well, listen, idiot.
Listen here. Hello, Meeklings. Everybody gather around. Hello, Meeklings. Welcome. What is it? May 1st?
It's May today 1st. Is May 1st.
Oh, also, hey,
oh my
look.
God. Hey, idiot, shut up for a second.
Let's start out by thanking everyone who came to the stand-up show.
Yeah, we were on Townies last month, and we had a lot of Meeklings come out. Thank you so much for coming out.
Every single fan came out.
Every single
fan we have filled that
mom.
30-person theater.
Yeah.
No, that was really nice.
Yeah, it was very nice.
To have, you didn't, I mean, it was not an LA Meekly event. We were just there, and a lot of people showed up, and that was really nice.
Yeah.
And we got to meet a lot of people. There's the one guy that I feel, for like a week, I felt really bad that we didn't get to talk to him more after the show. But
we were bombarded by our beautiful fans.
Yeah.
No,
by our beautiful Emilio.
who we finally got to meet, which was great.
That was really exciting. But more weird and exciting was that I got recognized by my voice twice while waiting in line for the bathroom. That was so weird.
You're like, trying to think of a radio star. You're like Orson Welles.
I'm Casey Kasem to these people. And while I was in the bathroom, because Alberto was waiting in line behind me, and the guy who had just recognized me was talking to Alberto, and I wanted to yell out from the bathroom, "He wrote the theme song!"
Credit where credit's due.
But yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah, it was and we had a really good time. I went to House of Pies afterwards, and I was just so sleepy because I'd been stressing about that show for a full week. It was the first time that it was over, and I was like eating mozzarella sticks with my eyes closed.
A mozzarella stick pie. It's not House of Mozzarella Sticks, you dumb idiot. Hey, listen.
Hey, listen. I didn't want to laugh at mozzarella stick pie, but I did, and I hate myself for it. And that's
What's not to laugh?
What's not to laugh about it? I laugh you.
So you're the laugh of my life. Let's get into what we did in April last month.
Yeah.
You want to hear my thing?
I want to go first. No, you go first.
My thing of the month?
Yeah.
Dog-E-Den.
Oh my God. What are you saying? What are these words you're saying?
Let me first give you the address. 15122 Ventura Boulevard.
It has to be a thing that is real. You can't make it up. Oh boy. Yeah, I need a couple
my
minutes.
thing of the month is the 405 freeway. It's a dog daycare / dog hotel sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Ventura Boulevard, and they have a big open window that faces the street, and all the dogs play in
pretty
it.
cute.
And we just go and stand there and watch them. It's very nice.
That sounds very relaxing.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
There's been some stressful stuff going on. It's nice to go there and just watch the dogs.
Very nice. And they're not like, is it like a rescue? It's not, right?
No, it's people's dogs.
It's people's dogs.
These are privatized dogs.
That makes me happy because I always worry when I go to like a pet shop and they let there's the one in Burbank on Magnolia, and they let the dogs and cats play out by the window.
Who let the dogs out though?
The woman who works there, Sheila.
The answer we've been waiting for.
I feel a certain level of guilt going and enjoying them and then leaving without one. I feel like it in my pit of my stomach. So it's nice to know that these dogs aren't for sale. They just they're just advertised as entertainment.
How much for that doggy in the window? Not for sale.
Not for sale.
That's what they tell me every single time. It's really nice. There's a lot of cute dogs because they have the bigger dogs kind of behind a wall because those ones that's where the dog fighting happens. It's just violence behind that wall, but in front it's all cute and games and all the cute little small ones. But it's nice if you're in the Sherman Oaks area, pull into the Chase parking lot and just go walk over and watch the dogs, man.
I love it. That was a yawn of excitement because I love that. I love that it exists. I want to go there right now. I need that in my life. I usually just watch stray dogs not get hit by cars. That's usually, it's pretty heartwarming, I guess.
What did you do?
I went on a really nice hike with our two friends, Chris Crittenden, Sydney Arvino, who's both helped us with our live shows before. We went to Lake Hollywood and we hiked around it. I don't know if it's necessarily a hike. I asked for a simple starter hike to get going again because school has been kind of weighing me down, but I have a Monday free. And we walked around there and it was really nice. Really beautiful day. I don't know if anyone's ever been there before, but it's kind of tucked. It's off of Barham, off the 101.
Is that the Andy Griffith opening one, or is that the one you drove me around once?
That's the one I drove you around to.
Late at night,
so you didn't get to see. You just saw like pure darkness. You're like, it's beautiful. Idiot.
I've never seen such a beautiful lake in my life because I've never seen this one.
I took my dad there thinking that that's where they filmed the credits to Andy Griffith, and I said Happy Father's Day. Yeah, and it was actually in Baldwin Hills.
Pa, start whistling, please, Pa.
Please, Pa. Tell me everything's gonna be okay, Abby. It's very nice.
And
you're like right under the Hollywood sign. It's got a big bridge there. It was in Seven Psychopaths. It's got bear statuette heads on one side.
Seven Psychopaths for Seven Brothers. That old tale.
Yeah, that old musical. On a clear day, it's a nice walk. You can really enjoy. You're still close to the city, so you have to worry. You can still hear cars honking and stuff, so you don't have to freak out and be like, I'm too far from the city. Where's that Pete's Coffee?
Where am I going to renew my driver's license? I gotta get home. I'm gonna end that there. We have a listener question this month. We're gonna do it in the middle. We're gonna try something a little different.
You want a high five for that?
No, my hand is just pointing at you. Okay, one high five.
Okay, go. Ow! Oof! That didn't even make a sound. We just pressed our palms together. Have you high fived before? Are you a virgin high fiver?
No, I did it with someone in Canada once.
Our hands froze.
They call it a high toonie. Yeah, we're gonna do the listener question in the middle, try something different. But you talking about a park transitions us perfectly into what this month's episode is gonna be about.
You know what's neat is that you'd think that I didn't plan that.
No, I think I planned that.
You're gonna talk about a park, okay? Make one up. I don't care.
We're either gonna do a dog episode or a park episode, depending on who goes first. How would you categorize this episode? Because it's not parks.
It's not
It's
parks.
kind of forest.
I use the words wilderness a lot.
Yeah,
it's
kind
of
the wilderness episode. Men versus wild.
Men go wild.
Men gone wild.
Men gone wild. Yeah, it's kind of wilderness areas. I wanted to do sort of like a national parks episode because spring's coming.
Yeah, but yeah, I was kind of thinking like, oh, parks like Pershing Square and stuff, but that it didn't fit. So I'm gonna do the beachside equivalent of what you're talking about,
and I'll be talking about Angeles National Forest today. Wow. Hero. Wow. Yeah, okay, I'll tell you the path, and no one cares, but I'll tell you. Of course, I'm really into David Paulides and his Missing 411, which is people who go missing in national parks for no reason. Boom.
I knew that's why you wanted to do that.
Absolutely. So I've been reading about national parks, and then
But it's not a national park.
It's not a national park, it's a national forest.
Neither is mine.
Great. Another high five or what?
One more.
Okay, go. Yeah, that's good. That's good. When have you moved your... You like move your arms and stuff, right?
I was told not to.
Oh, okay. Well, it shows.
I have one really big arm like Hellboy, and one of them is just a melted string cheese.
It drags.
Like that pie you had, the mozzarella stick pie.
Oh, that's right. Oh, look at you doing callbacks and planting seeds.
I planted the seed, much like the trees that grow in the national forests.
Mozzarella sticks grow in... I got my information from 3 places. The National Park website or the National Forest website. I don't remember which one. And then
it's a cheaper domain.
it's dot
tree.
Yeah, dot tree. And then 2 books. Angeles National Forest, which was published by the Big Santa Anita Historical Society, and The Forest and the People, the story of Angeles National Forest by W.W. Robinson. It's a little neat read from 1946. It's super cute.
Let's get ready to wilderness.
All right, shut up for a second. Shut up for 40 minutes,
Shut up in your face for 40 minutes while I talk.
Fasten your seatbelt. We're touching the edge of LA County, and in some cases, leaving the county. But this is a story that
I didn't take my passport.
This transcends territorial boundaries. We'll be talking about the wilderness. Angeles National Forest has been affectionately referred to as Los Angeles County's backyard, which is my title. I forgot to title it. The county's backyard.
Because it's where we leave all of our old cars.
Exactly. That's where I can walk around without my shirt.
I can pee there when the bathroom's full.
And sometimes I dug a hole to poo, and then my dad got out of the bathroom. I didn't have to. The forest takes up fully a fourth of the county. That's 690 acres. It, of course, crosses...
690 690 acres.
Maybe miles.
Yeah,
Not
it's
miles.
definitely not acres.
Miles. It's not miles.
My backyard is 690 acres.
It, of course, crosses counties and stretches from Santa Clarita to San Bernardino. Officially, it goes from San Bernardino National Forest on the east, Los Padres National Forest on the west, the ranges of Pasadena and Sierra Madre, and then reaches over behind Los Angeles to Mojave, around Pyramid Lake near the Ridge Rue. Eastward,
The what?
the Ridge Rue is what it says here. Eastward across the San Gabriels to Mount Baldy. So it's the San Gabriels all the way leading.
Right.
Mount Baldy is the end of it. Mount Baldy, as it's known by its Christian name, Mount San Antonio, is the highest peak in Angeles National Forest.
Mount, don't talk about it. Mount, please don't bring it up.
Mount Comover. Why is it called that?
Mount, it's very sensitive about it.
Get it all out of your system.
Mount Greg, they could call
Mount,
it.
ooh, Mount wearing a hat for a reason. Ooh,
Shut up! Mount hoping the snow cap comes early.
I quit. I quit right now. I quit.
I quit.
I quit.
I quit.
I quit. Mount Baldy.
You mean Mount?
Oh, yeah. Sits 10,064 feet above an area that is clearly not that high.
Wow, 10,064 feet? Mm-hmm. Well, your acreage was wrong, so is that
Maybe.
right?
It's actually 10
but it does
feet.
snow up there.
Yeah,
It's 10.
of course. Yeah.
It's an anthill. I'm making a mountain out of an anthill, quite literally.
It seems that what is considered Angeles National Forest is broken into two, divided by Santa Clarita and Highway 14. One side seems to end at Placerita Canyon and then pick back up at Bouquet Canyon and Castaic, going almost to Gorman. That's like another half of it, but I'm mostly going to concentrate on the side that we're on, this side of the Highway 14. So let's talk about Angeles National Forest. The natural landscape offers so much to our area. It's used for mineral and timber resources. It's used for grazing. I'm going to read something straight from the National Park website. In drought-prone California, the quantity, quality, and timely provision of our water is dependent on the health of our national forests. The forests supply, filter, and regulate water from the upper watersheds and meadows. About 384,000 acre-feet of water per year. That's 125 billion gallons come from Angeles National Forest based on a 2016 study. That equates to 180,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools and enough drinking water for California's population for more than 10 years, or enough water for over 940,000 households for a year, according to an information packet from the Forest Service.
But we're going to use it for the Olympic swimming pools instead.
Yeah, we're probably going to use it to spray wet t-shirt contests. That's where all the water's going.
We could have water for 10 years or make the world's biggest slip and slide.
It's a pop-up. The Angeles National Forest stores about 6.3 million metric tons of forest carbon. The economy of California is the fifth largest in the world, and California's national forests contribute to almost $2 billion annually in wages and income to small businesses. About $8 million annually in labor income for wage earners and local businesses, which includes food and lodging services, arts and entertainment, and recreation, real estate, rental and leasing, and retail trade services. That's 1,600 jobs annually. That's all provided by the forests. The largest source of jobs supported by the Angeles National Forest are forest service-led jobs, which provide important contribution to local economies and enhance social connections and community cohesion. About 3.6 million people visit the Angeles National Forest to recreate annually, which represents an economic value of over $292 million to the state.
Where does that money come from? Just like admission fees?
I think it's the park passes and stuff like that, from what I
Park
understand.
hoppers?
Park hopper passes, and also just supporting any of the local businesses that
Right.
have to pay taxes and stuff like that.
I've never been there, by the way.
I've dipped a toe, but I like after doing all this research, I'm like, they have that many lakes. The Angeles National Forest landscape includes diverse recreation opportunities such as water recreation, which includes fishing, swimming, rafting, as well as camping, picnicking, and green open space for activities that support human wellness and cultural traditions.
Like recreating the Andy Griffith intro.
Exactly. Getting to pretend to be Jason Voorhees for like an hour. Where are the cabins? Where are the
That's
girls?
where the real moneymaker is.
There's 126 lakes and ponds.
Oh my God.
508 miles of rivers and streams, 541 miles of trails. There's 6 miles of wild and scenic rivers, 49 developed campgrounds, 39 developed picnic areas. Over 1.6 million people visit the Angeles National Forest annually to hike and walk as their main activity.
And one buried treasure.
There are 12 threatened and endangered species that include the Santa Ana sucker.
For obvious reasons. He's been conned out of existence.
You lent that much money to who? The California unarmored three-spined stickleback, another one.
I'm not... They should go. It shouldn't be here.
Say it to them. Say it to their face. How about that?
And the very endangered California about to die.
The tickle death, the California red-legged frog. No reasons there. Mountain
They're red
yellow
because they're on fire.
The mountain yellow-legged frog.
Because he's scared.
The desert tortoise, and a plant called the Nevin's barberry. They're endangered species of that region. There are many peaks and lakes and canyons: Mount Baldy, Mount Wilson, Mount Islip, Mount Low. There's Pyramid Lake, Elizabeth Lake, Crystal Lake, Lake Castaic.
Crystal Lake.
Oh, I know. Oh, don't worry. There's jokes in here. Plant life is distributed accordingly because one side of the national forest is coastal and one side is desert. So the desert side has Joshua trees and sycamore cotton and black oak and desert scrub and pinon. The coastal side has Douglas fir and yellow pine and chaparral
Douglas fir banks.
Douglas fir banks, maple trees, Humboldt lilies. You got bobcats, black bears, woodpeckers. Why did I separate that?
Because you're obsessed with peckers.
Woodpeckers, coyotes, red-tailed hawks, horned owls, horny owls, pygmy owls, newts, rattlesnakes, mountain lions, deers,
Got the
raccoons.
woodpecker now.
I tried going to the beginning of mountains, but I was reading a lot about faults and crusts, and it was only interesting because I was forcing it. Like, I was trying to pretend to be you, and I just couldn't do it. So it's not interesting at all.
Hey.
We'll skip ahead to the humans. Let's talk about humans. According to the National Park website, radiocarbon dates of 7675 and 7600 years before present BP, they found evidence of humans. Like they found like a cooking feature in one of the northern drainages of the San Gabriel Mountains. Early material culture indicates an extensive use of grinding implements. To process small seeds. Grinding implements to process small seeds.
I got some small seeds for
Supplemented by hunting activities. Numerous cogged stones are also found within sites of this period, indicating ceremonial activities. From what we know about the people who lived there in those mountains in the 18th century, which were the Quiche, the Serrano, the Paiute, and other tribes in the area, they used the mountains and forests for everything. Obviously, that was everything to them. They depended on the mountains for food, for water, for materials for their weapons. They learned what leaves and berries were used for what medical ailments. They tended, it's said, to live in the lowlands in brush huts, but some ventured into the mountaintops. They said in the summertime, but they made these annual trips in the summer.
Horrible.
When is it the hottest? Yeah, let's walk uphill. Yeah, that sounds good. They would make these trips up into the mountain ranges to hunt animals like deer and rabbit. They went to the forest to collect acorns, which were essential, like we said before, to everything. Everything was
I've
acorns.
said it before. I've had acorn mash. It is good. It was good.
It tracks, yeah. They also gathered pine nuts. They used chaparral for a bunch of things. They used manzanita berries to...
Chaparral or chaparral?
Is it chaparral? Chaparral.
So.
Oh, that's right. Chaparral. That's what I kept saying. They used chaperones for a bunch of things. They used manzanita berries
for
the president's daughter. They used manzanita berries to extract cider. And the leaves were smoked to look cool. It is also said that manzanita leaves could help with bronchitis. Yucca fibers were used to make nets.
Even back then, people were coming to the Los Angeles area to fight bronchitis. Even back then,
yucca fibers were used to make nets and ropes. The mountains and the forest provided the original people of Los Angeles with an abundance of necessities. Yucca trees were important. The toñon plants were important. They existed like this for centuries, and then the Spanish came, and we stopped seeing as much. We stopped seeing as much native Angelinos in the mountains. They were relocated to Catholic prison work camps, or as one reading phrased it, incorporated into the mission community.
I have another, because I'm going to be talking about in my area the same thing, and they had another cute phrase for it.
Nice. High five for cute phrases. For mean things.
This again.
Yeah, do it. Just do it.
Oh, marinara.
Wow, that one got hard. Oh.
Yeah, it was marinara.
1769. Gaspar de Portola.
I thought you were going to start doing Hamilton. How does an orphan? Whatever.
You haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
No, I saw it. I spent a lot of money and I saw it. Hamilton! I get it.
Yeah, clearly I get it. Portola and Pedro Fages lead an expedition, Hollywood style, traveling north from San Diego and ending up in the San Fernando Valley. They were met with the friendly and eager to help Native Americans somewhere in U-Haul, where the tribe fed them and offered them shelter. Not new information, but this is all happening with a region that's going to become,
we're slowly seeing exact instances of contact throughout the city.
Exactly, yeah. Fages took pretty good notes on everything and talks about...
Oh, Fahey.
I
think we've talked about Fahey before.
Yeah, Fahey. Pedro Fahey. Yeah, he was the second in command to Portola. He took notes on like everything. He's one of those people. He's like a Daniel.
Oh no.
Oh, is that why? And I wrote that down real quick.
I better take note of it. Is that what people think of it? Note taken.
He took pretty good notes on everything like you, and talks about the high barren hills, which were difficult for beasts of burden, meaning mules and horses. But with the help of their new friends, they were led into a small valley with a pleasant, sightly field full of trees and water. This was many trips Fages would take around the mountain ranges over the years. In 1772, he came...
1772. I signed the Declaration of Independence.
Learning can be fun, not on this podcast, but usually.
That's what this is missing. Informative rap that white people can say.
Boom. Bop, boom, 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 bop.
My name is Alexander Hamilton.
I don't know how to rhyme.
Show closed.
He wasn't assassinated before, but he was now.
Aaron Burr strikes again. Hamilton canceled.
Suddenly Aaron Burr's the hero?
The guy reviewing his name is Aaron Burr.
1772, Fahey came up from the San Bernardino Valley and crossed the mountains into the area where the Cajon Pass is. So he was like making several trips into this ranges. He wandered into the Mojave Desert and Antelope Valley, but other than exploring and understanding their surroundings, surroundings, both the Spanish and the Californios to come, they didn't truly utilize the forest the way the Quiche and other tribes had. They didn't really care. They used the water for streaming from the mountains, of course. Sometimes they used timber.
Hulu, Netflix.
I want you to know that I don't want to laugh at these things, but like something in me, I guess
Let me take note of that.
I recognize a familiarity and I laugh. Do it again. Do it again.
Hamilton.
Sometimes they used the timber for lower canyon areas, but not really. Something that they did exploit, though, was grizzly bears.
Oh, no.
There used to be roaming grizzly bears in the Kazangaroos, and I get that they are really dangerous, and they're the ones that kill people for fun. I get that. Still.
They're known for.
That's what they're known for. But still, this story has really bummed me out. There used to be roaming grizzly bears in the San Gabriels, mostly spotted at the lower part of Milliard Canyon or the Arroyo Seco, and the area now covered by the waters at the back of Devil's Gate Dam. It was here that they were found, if not stalked, lassoed, and captured when they were found, and dragged to La Pueblo in the center of town near Rivera Street, and the bears were thrown into something called a bear bull contest. Self-explanatory. But for those who don't want it to be true and are like, maybe it means this.
Maybe it's a stock market thing.
Maybe it's some kind of race. Nope. They would throw a bear in a ring with a bull, and the bear would go through a few bulls before the tables would turn. This was something that happened all over California because the people of the old world were unforgivably awful.
Where'd they get the bull? I guess bulls
Where
aren't.
did they get the bull? I have one question.
I was thinking bulls aren't native. Bulls are like the most common thing. That's not the. I was thinking like, well, that's only in Spain for the toreadors.
A bullet claimed the last known grizzly bear in San Gabriel Mountains on May 16th, 1894.
Ironic that the bull got them at the end.
It's true. What?
Bullet. Is that what we were talking about?
Yeah,
bullet
a
fight?
bullet.
Don't bring a bear to a bullet fight.
A female bull is a bullet.
I shot a bullet at her.
Get her, go, run. We've been feeding you gunpowder all day. Anyways, the man the asshole who shot the last grizzly bear's name was Walter R. Richardson. Black bears did not exist naturally in San Gabriel Mountains, but in 1933, 11 black bears from the Yosemite Valley, they were up to no good. They were troublemakers, and they were moved to Southern California and released near Crystal Lake, which is above Azusa, which is where Jason Voorhees drowned. All black bears in the San Gabriels are believed to be descended from this group.
Not all of them.
Come on, hey now. All black bears in the San Gabriels are believed to be descended from this group of 11 black bears. Like the buffalo from Catalina. These black bears are like, you guys are trouble.
They should make them fight.
Oh my God.
Inbred buffalo versus inbred black bear. I heard that they're trying to reintroduce grizzly bears, I think, to California. Like the grizzly bears that are in Alaska or something.
Okay.
They're thinking of reintroducing them. I can't remember if they're reintroducing them to Yosemite or just to Colorado. I'm not sure, but the grizzlies are coming back.
I'm sorry that all the grizzly bears are gone.
But I don't want them
But as
here.
soon as they're here, I'm like, who's going to kill all these?
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Can't we just put them on an island? I don't know.
Let's just bring them all to Catalina.
Catalina's uninhabitable now. Black bears are
What
relatively...
do you mean now? Take that, Catalina.
You're going down, Catalina. Here's a side story, not to do with Angela's Forge, but I learned it this week and I forgot to tell you off mic. One of my friends in my sign painting class, she grew up in Palos Verdes, and she's like, oh yeah, I used to party with people from Catalina because we're pretty close. Hang out with this guy. His grandfather was William Wrigley.
No, you did tell me this.
I did tell you
yeah,
that.
you told me.
I did tell you
That's
that.
weird.
It is weird.
And I think I asked, did he smell nice?
You
Was his
asked
breath
if
fresh?
Yeah, I'll get a confirmation on
Was
that.
his breath fresh when you obviously made out with him?
Since he was the grandson of William Wrigley, who can resist? Double the pleasure, double the not resistance. That didn't work out in my favor. Black bears are relatively shy and are almost never known to harm humans. Watch out for Walter Richardson, though.
Those are the ones you got to look out
That's
for. The quiet bears.
But before we pass the early era of Los Angeles, it should be noted that the first American in Los Angeles appears in town in 1821, the same year Mexico conquers California. His name was Joseph Chapman. Here's Joseph Chapman's story.
Haven't we talked about him before?
Have we?
I don't know.
Maybe in passing. I would have remembered some of this, but maybe I forgot. We've done 65 episodes. I'm allowed to forget a couple things.
That's not in the contract, but okay.
Chapman was the second officer on the Santa Rosa, which was one of the Hippolyte Bouchard's raiding ships. Bouchard was a French-Argentine revolutionary. Bouchard was a French-Argentine revolutionary who led attacks on the California coast, primarily the missions, with his band of Argentinian pirates.
What?
Pirates from Argentina.
Let me ask my family my very passionate family who lives in Argentina, which is true, by the way. And Greg finds it hilarious that I have easygoing, passionate Argentinian relatives who make me seem like the most uptight white boy. Everything that I am, they make it all come out of me. You
can't dance?
You can't tango in public. Why not?
Why not? The passion. I will literally send Daniel text there, just the passion out of nowhere for
It
no
always
reason.
makes me feel bad about who I am. Why can't I be more like my South American family? I want to be loose and passionate.
And passionate.
So wait a minute. So he was bringing pirates from Argentina to attack the missions in Los Angeles.
Because he was
which is
just
something I've been waiting to ask you for 65
he was
episodes.
just striking Spanish stuff, like the Spanish Empire,
Right.
like anything they had on land, any ships. He was just attacking
Wow.
all the Spanish stuff, which makes him kind of cool.
But how is he an American? I don't understand.
Not him.
Oh.
Second in command.
Oh, okay. So he was second in command
Command
to the,
to this
to the
guy.
Argentinian
yeah,
pirate.
exactly. In 1817, we'll get there. With passion. If you're gonna raid, you do the passion.
We do not raid them. We ravish them.
We take the town and we make passion to it. We pillage. We pillage with passion. November 1818, Bouchard. There's another guy named Sir Peter Corney, who was captain.
Now that's my relative.
Dance for us, Corney. I don't know how. Do I move my arms like this? No, please don't. He was the captain of the ship this time. His second in the command.
Captain Corny.
Captain Corney.
He almost sounds like a cereal pirate.
You mean a cereal box pirate?
A cereal box pirate.
There's Captain Corney. He's commanding the ship for Bouchard.
And
his
his arch nemesis, Captain Corny.
Captain Corney. He's captaining ship for Bouchard. So Bouchard is not there.
It's a weird story.
But second in command to Captain Corney is Pirate Joe Chapman, and the rest of the pillaging pirates. I'm trying to separate
Commander
but
Cheesy.
Commander Cheesy.
Admiral Cheesy, sorry.
And he just says puns. He says most of the things that you say. You can write that down in your journal.
I took note.
The pirates are attacking the passion question mark. They're attacking the Presidio at Monterey, and then they go on to attack the mission in Santa Barbara a month later. I don't know which raid.
So it doesn't sound like they're exactly attacking Los Angeles, just because there's nothing really along the
There's
coast.
nothing. Not at 1818. There's really not a lot to attack.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a couple of years away from Mexico taking over the missions and then breaking them up anyway. So, and they're attacking coastal towns like Monterey and Santa Barbara, and then they go on to San Capistrano. So how are they gonna get here? They're
What, are they going to take the 101?
Oh, they attack Mission Santa Monica, Mission Venice.
The Presidio of Marina Del Rey. They went through the canals.
Now I don't know which raid this happened in, but I do know that raid. I don't know what raid this happened in, but I do know that Mission Santa Barbara, the Padres and 150 trained Native Americans scared away the Santa Rosa, the boat that he was on. So during one of these raids, Pirate Joe was captured by Don Antonio Lugo. It must have been at Monterey.
Yeah, Lugo, I remember. We've definitely talked about Lugo.
He took the blonde captive, who was Joseph Chapman, Pirate Joe, under his wing and brought him to Los Angeles on the promise that Chapman would supervise the quiche in the building of the church at La Plaza, possibly the same church that William Monet did repairs on like a century later. But Joseph Chapman, this old Yankee sailor, he was a gifted woodworker. He had practiced logging and carpentry in Maine. He knew how to make a tree fall in a direction he wanted, and people thought this was great because nobody had seen anything like that before. He made good on his promise by using timbers hefted in the mountains of Arroyo Seco and carried to the plaza by the quiche and a bunch of oxen. Him and a bunch of Native American workers, they were working for a camp in Millard Falls when they were logging, and sometimes they would get attacked by other tribes. But this lumberjack Joe, he was once a pirate, so he would fight back and defend the camp. And soon after this happened enough times, people regarded Pirate Joe Chapman as a hero. And when he returned from these logging jobs, Hero Joe. And he returned from these logging jobs, people began to depend on his craftsmanship, and he, from all this, became a model citizen. He went straight, like that scene in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid where they try to go straight.
I now I'm thinking of the Pirates of, because you're talking about pirates going straight, and the Pirates of Penzance, and
I don't know what that is.
it's a music. It's kind of like Hamilton of its day. I am the very model of a modern Major General. Hamilton, 1974. Or 1974.
1974. We all know American history, right?
The Godfather. Aaron Burr. He shot my boy. Hamilton.
You can't touch Aaron Burr. He's a made man. I might be mixing movies.
Nobody goes against the Constitution.
Anyways.
And you come to this on the day of my Declaration of Independence.
Pirate Joe Chapman, Hero Joe, he was baptized and in 1822 married Senorita Guadalupe Ortega, whose family's ranch was near Santa Barbara, is said to have been burned down by his former pirate pals on their raids. Chappie, as I'm going to call him for the rest of this, also had valuable basic medical skills and successfully treated Governor Manuel Victoria, who I had to look up because I forgot, one of the bad governors. Victoria was wounded in 1831 while fighting Californios at the Cahuenga Pass, which I believe we discussed in Los Angeles Year 1 episode. Anyways, Joe Chapman built a grist mill for
what's it? Where's this going with the forest?
That's where he did all his timbering. That's how he became a hero. They took him into the wilderness, and he did all of the timbering for almost the whole city at the time. You send a pirate into the forest, he comes back a hero, is what I'm trying to get at. All right?
If a pirate falls in the forest, does he yell R?
No, he becomes a hero.
He was like the
first American to settle here.
Right, but he was like the woodsman, if you will.
He was like a lumberjack
and all
for the
that,
city.
And all that was coming. All that wood was coming from
Mueller
Angeles.
Falls, which is in Angeles
Okay.
National Forest.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So all the early buildings were built out of the Angeles National Forest,
Pretty much, because all that's where all the timber's coming
Yeah.
from. Anyways, he tried to get into wine and he failed. He moved to Santa Barbara in 1839. To some of the 19th century and the Angeles National Forest on the LA side, the Spanish and the Californians didn't really use the mountains other than lumber sometimes, eradicating all the grizzly bears they could find and using the water to wash blood off of their whips from unnecessarily punishing the Native Americans they held captive. The chaparral, say it again?
Chaparral? I think it's chaparral.
The chaparral that the Kich and other tribes had several uses for, the Spanish didn't really think much of. They didn't like it. It wasn't good for pasture for
Yeah,
cattle.
it's nothing. It's like
but-
placeholders for.
But it's nothing for us, but it was everything to them, is
Right.
what I'm trying to get at. It's like when the Spanish came, they're like, this is ugly. I don't want this. I can't raise cattle here. The Mexicans conquered the Spanish for
kill
cattle.
bears here.
It's not a good setting to kill bears. I like it to be more dramatic. Big trees, big trees. The Mexicans conquered the Spanish for California, and among other things, they also didn't venture into the mountains. The mission land was being subdivided when they took over. They turned it into ranches, and many of those ranches lied at the foot of the San Gabriels, but they didn't really venture into that. They did like a couple things. The Americans came in the 1850s as this was all theirs now, and at that point, the San Gabriel Mountains started to get more attention. But from who? Bandits, hunters, squatters, gold prospectors, homesteaders.
My kind of people.
They're squatting up in them hills. Homesteaders and mountain squatters.
Homesteading up in there.
Homesteaders and mountain squatters also made their way into Los Angeles wilderness. Many of the canyons and roads and peaks are named after these American settlers. Miller's Canyon was named after a squatter. Rubio Canyon was named after Jesus Rubio Maron, who took up a squatter's claim in a canyon near Altadena. Mount Islip is named after a settler on the west side of the San Gabriels. George Islip is his name. Commodore Perry Switzer was a carpenter who ventured into the mountains and built a rough pack trail north of Pasadena. We now refer to that as Switzer's Trail, leading to Switzer's Falls. William Sturtevant, he brought a pack train of burros to Southern California from Colorado, entering in the mountains on the northeasterly side by Aliso Canyon. Now Sturtevant Trail and campgrounds is a major area near Mount Wilson.
This is a part of the city I have no
Right?
familiarity with at all.
It's-
Like, oh yeah, Switzer Trail. I can't believe it.
I would type in like Switzer Falls,
Yeah.
and it would show me like a little green area and say Switzer Falls, and I would
Yeah.
have to back up and be like, oh, that's above Azusa. Oh, that's
Yeah,
above
yeah.
Altadena. Oh, that's like
The Google Maps car should really drive up into those things.
you carry it on your back.
Google backpack.
Oh, you don't like information? I thought you wanted information for it, and you don't want to put that on your back.
Put the car on your back.
Over on the Santa Clarita side of the mountains in Placerita Canyon near the far western edge, 3 miles from present-day Newhall, a rancher falls asleep next to a tree.
Oh God, here we go with this tree
That
again.
year is 1842, and that man is Francisco Lopez.
I can't hear about this
He's
tree with
sleeping.
the gold dust onion behind it
You
or whatever.
are giving your spoiler alert, okay? This is the week where we don't do spoilers. Endgame is upon us.
He found the Avengers buried under the tree.
He found all the Infinity Stones under this tree, and he put the gauntlet on, and he's got to drop it into Mordor now. What? We both know that would work, unless Sauron gets the Infinity Stones.
Imagine.
Oh,
and then
my
he
God!
puts
Imagine.
the ring on
oh
the
no!
gauntlet.
Stop it! So he's invisible. Who's gonna stop him? Nobody.
Worm tongue.
Worm tongue.
The hero nobody expected. Worm tongue. His movie came out a month ago, and now he's the hero. Worm tongue.
The first one's always bad, but by the third one they get really good. Worm tongue's trilogy.
I knew him when he was grub tongue. Larva tongue.
I'm trying not to laugh. I think
Take a note of that. Deliver puns with more passion.
he's sleeping. And while he's sleeping, he's dreaming of floating along a river of gold. Okay. There's gold up in them subconscious. No big deal, right?
And that id.
No big deal. I dream of copper all the time. But Lopez wakes up and he's hungry. So he starts digging around looking for wild onions. What does he find?
Whenever I wake up from a nap, I crave an onion. I need a dirty, dug up raw onion.
I want to bite into a raw onion from the ground.
By the way, this is probably why people hate the show, but off topic completely. Did you know that at In-N-Out you can get raw and grilled onions on the same hamburger?
Really? I didn't know that. What's it called?
Onions.
Saffron style?
Yeah, it's called Gimme My Hamburger the Way I Want.
Here's my money. Do what I'm telling you to do.
The guy offered it to me because he saw me struggling when he asked about onions.
Wow,
and-
he's not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
He broke protocol.
He went against the vow, and then the other people pulled him back and put him in the potato into the French fry slammer. Never seen again. Okay, go on.
Did you know that at In-N-Out? Oh, you said that already. Okay. I got your paper.
He
Sorry.
was dreaming of In-N-Out. He looked up and there were two crossed palm trees.
He's looking around for wild onions, right? He had this dream. He's hungry. He wants to pick wild onions. He does find wild onion, but it doesn't matter as much as the gold flakes clinging to the root of this tree and wild onion. This was the first documented discovery of gold in California.
Yeah.
There's gold up in them stories. What do you mean? Yeah. All right, listen. All right, this isn't for you. This is for the listener. Okay.
I feel like we talk about this every episode.
One episode before, and you interrupted me at every because you heard me say placenta, and we just went from there.
But I feel like we've talked about this before. I don't know. Who cares? I care. But
Let me tell you who cares. Every single listener, all of the people who
All
support
the
us on
minor
Patreon,
49ers.
all my friends who are minor 49ers. Well, I don't know too much about their stories. What's it, like the radio show? No, it's a podcast, Dad.
My iPod's broken.
So Lopez brought his gold to Los Angeles to be appraised, and when he did, other prospectors began to get hungry for onions, and they sensed the possibility of riches in the western soil, and the gosh darn California gold rush began in Santa Clarita, a full 6 years before it was discovered at Sutter's Mill.
Right.
San Fernando Placers, as the discovery was called, was worked on and off for about a decade before moving on to other prospects. The tree still stands and is a national monument now. It's called the Oak of the Golden Dream, which you could visit today if you want to. It's not far from the city. I went there. It's pretty nice. This is the first documented discovery of gold. But stories about gold go back to the 1790s in this area. There are
Hamilton's time.
There are stories that Padres and some key slaves from the San Fernando Mission worked a mine called Los Padres, which is supposed to be near a Big Bend section of the San Andreas Fault. But many think this is a fable. A lot of people I think we found it over the years, but I didn't look into it that much because Kern County, that's prison town. I don't do Kern County. The largest gold strike in the San Gabriels occurred in 1854 on the East Fork of the San Gabriel River near Mount Baden-Powell. I'm such a city hick that I'm doing research and I'm continually surprised by the amount of canyons and mountaintops. And also I read the word gulch. I'm like, there's a gulch in LA County. I want to go there.
There's one not on Gower?
Gower Gulch. Anyways, gold was found there, and a lot of it. This was the richest concentration of gold in the region, was at East Fork area. People were finding nuggets of gold, not just flakes and onion roots, and that lasted for a long time. They were still finding gold up to the 1930s, and that's all good for prospectors and squatters and homesteaders. But I think you said something about bandits? Bandits? Can you tell me more about this bandits? The San Gabriels were a perfect place to hide out and get refuge after a job. So bad men like Jack Powers, Salmon Pico, Juan Flores could be found there. Found, quotation marks. These bandits would drive stolen...
Stop saying bandits.
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 Bandits. These abandons would drive stolen cattle and horses into the canyons and pasture them in the flats.
Pasture. I feel like we've discussed some criminals before who we've said and then they ran off into the San Gabriels. I think maybe Machine Gun Kelly or there are a few people I think that it's a good place to disappear.
Whenever I talk about the Black Dahlia, I talk about they placed her in a certain place because in LA you can be at the ocean or the mountains either way in theoretically 10 minutes. When they talk about the mountains, we're talking about San Bernardino, we're talking about San Gabriels and stuff like that. Yeah, that's the mountains that you could go and commit a crime in. Mount Crime. There was a network of old Native American trails that could be used as a getaway if any lawmen chased them in there and they had to flee. Our old handsome Robin Hood pal, Tiburcio Vasquez, and his pal...
I think he's who I was thinking of.
Yeah, maybe. His pal, Jose Gonzalez, would pasture the stock stolen in the Chalayo Flats, which is above La Cañada. Gonzalez had a cabin in that area and said that one time he got into a brawl with a bear and he only had a knife and he killed the bear.
Well, that's like, what's that movie? The Revenant.
It's like The Revenant, except,
I want to call it The Deliverance.
Something else was killed up there. A man's spirit to move on.
One man's spirit.
One man in particular
one
spirit.
Piggish man's spirit. That's, God, imagine getting into a knife fight with a bear.
This was such a cool thing that it earned him the name Chilea. It means hot stuff in Spanish.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and hence Chileo Flats became the name of the area. But there's also another story that was named after a man who lived there for 40 years named Chileo Silvius. How many bears did he kill? The mountains and the forest there in the mining days are full of what are called colorful characters with great nicknames. I did not have the time to look these people up because they had such small, minute stories, and I already have 9 pages. So I'm just going to name them. Here we go. One-Eyed Mountain Charlie. Twitch Lip Callie, Peg Leg Bill Conyers, Old Man Armstrong, Uncle Jimmy Grayson, Soldier Thompson, and Two Gun Don Rosenkrantz.
That's like 3 different worlds of people that combine. His Majesty Bloody Knife Manischewitz.
One of the baddest bad men of the San Gabriels was John Knox Portwood, who was a fugitive southerner from Virginia who moved to the East Fork
whose name is also a sentence.
Thank you. He moved to the area in 1895. By the way, this is what during the gold rush and everyone's mining for everything, so there's just a bunch of people up there. Knox's canyon neighbors had always thought he was a bit shady, and it didn't help that he was a wanted known killer. He was boasting about people he killed, and he had 6 notches carved on his gun. In 1917, he shot and killed a man named Herman Miller after an argument in Iron Fork. Knox was arrested and went to trial, and during trial he claimed that Miller was a German spy. Miller, it was during World War I.
Oh.
You know history, right? You've watched Hamilton?
When Hamilton defeated the Kaiser Wilhelm?
So he was arrested, he went to trial, he was claiming that Miller was a German spy, that Miller's home in the canyon was a German communication line with Mexico. He said that he killed Miller in self-defense.
Yeah, that's weird. Germany was trying to get Mexico to turn against the United States.
Yeah, and Mexico was like,
Never.
Never.
Not in 100 years.
They would never do anything against us. America,
Our greatest ally.
our greatest ally, were they going to build a wall between us? Knox Portwood said he killed Miller in self-defense. The jury bought his story and acquitted him. Knox then sent threatening letters to another Canyon resident named Blanche Cole because he didn't like her friendliness toward park rangers and government officials. Cole, who lived near Graveyard Canyon, asked for the protection of 2 rangers. As expected,
Graveyard Gulch would be better.
I kept reading this story and I had to like...
Cemetery Canyon.
Cemetery Canyon. I kept reading this and being like, this is California, right?
I know.
This is Los Angeles County, right? Like, this sounds like not. Blanche Cole was worried, so she had 2 park rangers posted on duty to protect her because this guy already writing letters, known killer. As expected, Knox soon rode up on horseback drunk and encountered the 2 rangers. And he was ordered to step down, but chose instead to draw his weapon, and he was shot dead, bullet hole in the head. That entire story sounds like a Johnny Cash song. What's crazy to me that there are so many stories coming from the San Gabriels, and I almost fell into a hole and tried to read everything. It was once a booming mining town at the East Fork called Eldoradoville. There was another one called Prospect Bar, and they were all hustle and bustle, and then just bust because they became ghost towns. I don't know how much of these areas are left, but there are remnants. There are mines and gulches and gold and badmen all in our backyard, and I think that's so cool. Let's get to the good stuff now. That's stuff that we actually showed up for. There were just outlaws and squatters out there, but actual decent ranchers and cattlemen who were straight up exploiting its natural landscape of the
Decent people.
Decent people just messing up. They thought that everything was expendable and who cares. Ranchers were taking their sheep out to the fields and they were eating all the grass, turning meadows into dirt. Some ranchers were deliberately setting fires because they were seeking more open grassland for the flocks. These fires went unchecked for days. People were polluting the rivers and streams. Trees were being cut down indiscriminately to supply the boom in Los Angeles that they're going through in the 1880s. A big help with getting the forest declared a national forest came from a familiar person in LA history, our old pal Abbott Kinney. Meeklings who remember from our Venice Beach episode, Abbott Kinney was the visionary behind the Venice canals along with the boardwalk and an early pier.
Yeah, I remember.
You look like you wanted to say something.
No, I was just thinking about the pirates going through the canals. But
okay.
I'm also thinking, what does he have to do with...
That's where he
Tell me, Greg.
Tell me, Greg, please. I don't know if it was during his whole pier thing or afterwards, but he lived at the base of the San Gabriel Mountains. He lived up there and
he had bronchitis or whatever.
Bronchitis. And when he came here, he's like, I want to get rid of my bronchitis. Kinney was an officer of the American Forestry Association and the chairman of California's first board of forestry, which was established in 1885. Kinney, along with the activities board and with the help of renowned hobo and national parksman John Muir, who I think is great, all these guys were banding together at the same time. So I'll go through that. For those who don't know, John Muir is the forefather of the national parks. With his writings that were published in magazines, this wilderness man led the California movement for the preservation and supervision of the forest and became a national movement to protect these parks. Now, Kinney became interested in San Gabriel Mountains after he built a ranch home beneath the high San Gabriels. Do you know what that ranch was called? It's called the Venice Canals. No, it's called Kinney Loa.
That does sound familiar.
Kinney Loa is said to be a combination of his surname and Loa, the Hawaiian word for mountain. Kinney Loa Ranch was sold to an oil company owner in 1928. It was eventually subdivided with Kinney's house torn down in the 40s, but the area later became like Altadena, Pasadena area. Kinney Loa Mesa, I think it's still called.
Again, this whole part of the city, like all of you, none of this sounds familiar. I've never heard of any of these places.
That's what's
before.
crazy to me. Usually some stuff else sounds familiar, but like Abbott Kinney had to do with the mountains. Like it's completely blindsided by it. Anyways, he was interested in the mountain ranges and the forest since he came to California in the 1880s. He studied many different aspects of landscape and how it was being compromised by the population boom. Unrestrained timbering and clearing, unlimited pasture by sheep and cattle. He also looked at
limited pasture.
He was also looking at the effects of fires and floods. He knew the importance of trees and bushes for holding rainwater. He was looking into how to protect soil. Overall, he saw what the San Gabriels needed.
Yes, he was the only one thinking now about if we knock down all these trees, the next rain is going to cover the entire Los Angeles with mud.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody was smart enough to think about, like, you know how there's that 10 years drought and then we'd have a monster flood that would kill everyone?
How do we make it worse?
Listen, everyone owns stuff. I don't own that much. Yep. Landslide covers it all, like Fleetwood Mac says, and then I own whatever's on top.
Yeah, I built on top of that. I paved the landslide.
Overall, he saw the San Gabriels needed was, as he said, intelligent supervision of the forest land and brush lands of California with a view to their preservation in such proportion to the other lands of the state as scientific forestry may demonstrate to be necessary to the welfare of the Commonwealth. Basically, there are such positive effects of having this right here that if we start messing around with it and we start selling it and subdividing it and knocking it down, that there's going to be negative effects on the outlet. They had the foresight to see that. And he had many supporters because many people understood that the destroying the forest here in Southern California would have an obvious negative effect on the streams and water. That was the most important thing, was protecting the watershed. We did a whole water episode, so we know that we get a lot of natural water from San Gabriel's, from the high San Gabriel's. So destroying San Gabriel's would have completely altered that. So in 1891, the Department of Interior appointed a...
Let's cover it with lead.
Can we make this mud out of asbestos instead?
Let's plant asbestos trees.
So in 1891, the Department of the Interior appointed a special agent named B.F. Allen to investigate timbered lands. Best friend Allen, B.F.F. Allen, to investigate timbered lands and watersheds on the Pacific coast. He found in our area that there was poor watershed conditions and it had random fires, either man-made or not. They were having a tremendous effect on the area. By December, the LA Chamber of Commerce was pushing for the San Gabriels to become preserved and to be made a public domain for the general public as a park, thanks to the work of John Muir. The following year, December 1892, the proclamation to create the San Gabriel Forest Reserve was sent to President Benjamin Harrison. Don't know that man.
Benjamin
Harrison, who signed it, which meant it would be preserved and open to the public. The first name the area was given was San Gabriel Timberland Reserve, but in 1907, the word reserve I read was forbidden. It was probably just changed. So they changed it to San Gabriel Natural Forest, and I can't find out why, but in July of 1908, the following year, it was finally changed to the Angeles National Forest. It wasn't the first national forest. That goes to Yellowstone, but that was declared a national park in 1891, the same year as the San Gabriel. So it wasn't the first, but it was an early edition.
But it's really confusing, this whole national, because there's like 6 subdivisions of the National Parks Department.
I kind of was peeking into that, and I kind of gave up on it.
It doesn't make any. It's completely meaningless.
Yeah, let's just go home.
Let's just forget it. You know what? This is meaningless.
This is meaningless. We weren't the first one. We were an early edition, but in 1915, Angeles National Forest was the first national forest to require campfire permits. So there. Cool, man. Cool. I like information too. B.F. Allen, the man who was set out to investigate the forest for preservation, became its first forest supervisor, followed by W.A. Porter, Everett Thomas, Rushton Carleton, Theodore Lukens, William Mendenhall, Sim Jarvie, William Dresser, and George Roby. This is a long line of forest supervisors. It was just written in the book, and I thought I'd write it down too. Forest supervisor commands the district ranger, who gives instructions to lookouts, patrolmen, and guards. Their main concern, I believe even to this day, is fire safety. They're always on lookouts, on rotation, looking for any signs of fire. I just thought that should be said. They're heroes, and I wish that I would have been that instead of this. Up to the 1880s, everyone used the mountains for either sustenance or economic purposes. That includes the badmen. But in 1885, during one of the first LA booms, people started using the mountains for recreation.
1985?
No, 1885. Okay. Yeah, during the new wave boom.
1885?
There's no Back to the Future 3, right?
I believe it did take place in 1885, but is that in your notes? Did you talk about Back to the Future 3?
And I talk about Jason Voorhees. What was our theme this month? We always have a secret theme and nobody knows about it.
Yeah. If you say the theme out loud, our couch starts dancing.
There was a pioneer trailblazer in the San Gabriels, and his name was Benjamin Wilson, who was the owner of Rancho San Pascual. He also went by the name Don Benito, which is what the locals called him. He reworked an old Native American path with the help of his workers who are Mexican or Native American, and they blazed a trail up Little Santa Anita Canyon to the top of the mountain. We know it now as Mount Benny. Kidding, it's Mount Wilson. He built a little cabin along the way while working on the trail, and it was called the Halfway House. It was a 3-room cabin, stable, blacksmith shop, and a chicken house. In 1889, a visitor named W.H. Pickering of Harvard spent a night up there, either at the Halfway House or atop Mount Wilson. I think atop Mount Wilson, but he went with his pal, Mr. Clark, who built telescopes. They commented that the atmospheric conditions seemed favorable, and the two men made a decision that night to return with better telescopic equipment.
Let's build telescopes for chickens.
See that? They're holding a chicken in place. Look at that. Yeah, look at that. It looks like an egg, right? Look at it.
Yeah, good chicken sound. Oh, that was
pretty good.
Oh my God, a chicken just walked in here. Greg didn't make a noise.
After 3 months, enough of their equipment had been carried to the top of Mount Wilson that they were able to build the first telescope and dome. And by May of that year, they were already doing space looking. They were later transferred their stuff to Peru, but just about 10 years later, 1903, 1904, another guy, George Hale, tested the conditions of the mountain top.
Peru's a very passionate country, though.
How do you feel about astronomy?
It's so vast.
Fascinate.
Planets. The stars are so hot and spicy.
There's another guy after these two, Pickering and Clark. George Hale went up there in 1903, 1904 and tested the conditions of the mountaintop for astronomy looking. And the Carnegie Institution of Washington, D.C. granted him funds to build another telescope and construct an observatory. That's the story of the Mount Wilson Observatory.
Interesting.
Thanks to Don Benito.
Here's to you, Don Benito.
Because of pals like Benny Wilson, Don Benito, people went up to San Gabriel's to hike because of the trails he built. Hunting and fishing were super popular in ranges. Recreation became so popular that in 1894, Pacific Electric had a funicular going up Mount Low and taking people to the Echo Mountain House, which we talked about in the Red Car, Yellow Card episode. Mount Low Scenic Railway was created by Thaddeus Lowe and David McPherson, and it was world famous. It was a tourist stop for thousands of visitors. There was 3 hotels up there on Mount Low, that was 3,300 feet up in the San Gabriels.
How many?
3,300. One 3-day weekend, the Echo Mountain House and the Pouth saw 5,000 visitors, which was a bunch.
For those days.
Yeah. There was only 3,000 people in the world.
A few of them came twice. There was also, I remember that, like, there was like a spotlight up there, and you can pay, like, on your birthday, we'll shine the spotlight on your house.
That's so cool. Yeah, I love that.
And it melts your house.
Yeah. Anyways, it burned down in 1936. Fire purifies all. What's called the Great Hiking Area lasted from 1895 to 1938, and the Angeles National Forest had a lot to do with that. People were coming because of the land boom were coming. Right. People like Charles Loomis and Land of Sunshine were promoting that. John Muir had been writing about it. It was now a national forest, so people were really using this area. And chronologically, I feel like it's a good time to mention a weird thing. Now that I am close to closing this up. So it's 1936 in the East Fork of the San Gabriel River. Remember, that's the largest concentration of gold was discovered there. There's gold up in them fork. A bridge was built. It was meant to serve as a link between San Gabriel Valley to the south and Wrightwood to the north. Well, wouldn't you know it? But a dang flood come in 1938 and changed the natural landscape and washed away the road, which was meant to meet the bridge.
Imagine. We finally got the funding. We're halfway done.
Imagine coming out with like a pick and a shovel.
You're face to face with a new mountain.
Yeah. Mr. San Gabriel, I got news about this bridge. The road was never restored and construction was abandoned due to lack of financial investment because they didn't want to spend all this money digging up a hill. But the bridge remained isolated deep in the San Gabriel Mountains. One side of the bridge is normal, it's wide and stuff, and the other just ends at the bottom of this hill and dies off.
So this was just like a big flood something.
Yeah, it was the flood of 1938.
Right. The one that Woody Guthrie wrote about.
I think it's the one that Woody Guthrie wrote about. Although this was, I think, in March, and that was on New Year's Day, but I'm wondering which one messed up.
It's a sequel song. It's the Let's Twist Again.
This is called The Bridge to Nowhere, and it's become a must-see for hikers willing to hike 4 hours to get there. It might be 4 hours there and back, but I don't know. But I showed Ada, and she's like, no, we're not doing that. People also bungee jump off the side of it. My friend Nikesh did it. He bungee jumped off the side of that. The bridge is also a 1930s.
The bungee jump to nowhere.
The bridge is also a 1930s bridge, so it's dramatic as hell. This is in the hills north of Azusa, if you get curious. You can look up Bridge to Nowhere. It's pretty neat. By the way, like we were talking about, the 1938 flood is the big one. It's the one that we talked about several times. It was catastrophic. Overnight, trails and camps and cabins in San Gabriel were wiped out. It was the fury of the floods and the fires.
You like that?
It was familiar, and you liked it, didn't you? You liked hearing it. It reminded you of a thing, didn't it? Yes.
Brought back memory. Yes.
I like
limited references. Nothing's ever really forgotten.
There were a lot of floods, and there were a whole lot of fires, and that truly did away with the Great Hiking era. It was easier to just enjoy the Great Depression, than to go hiking, which was, a free thing. There's been too many fires to list, but just know
can't afford the trail mix.
There was too many fires to list, but just know that the station fire in 2009 happened above La Cañada in the Los Angeles forest, and that was considered to be one of the worst forest fires ever up till 2018, when we had all of the worst forest fires
I'll be talking
ever.
About that.
High five on that.
Let me try this again.
Yeah, ready? Immediately EMT here. Are you okay?
We heard a big high five. This was a high 10.
Everybody who listens to the podcast, eardrum explodes. The podcast that'll have you staring, I gotta go to the hospital. A lot of water is scary, but also no water is just as bad. 18 million trees have died in California since the fall of 2017. Even as the state...
What?
Yeah,
wow.
Because of the climate change.
Wow.
Which isn't real.
Oh, good.
Oh, good. I didn't have to worry about that. Even as the state emerged from a years-long drought, the rain season this year has helped some, but we aren't out of the trenches yet. So we're still obviously in trouble. The entire Angeles National Forest continues to be a popular destination for tourists and residents, more with tourists than residents. We get millions of people coming every year for different kinds of things, to go hiking, to go camping,
to dump their bodies,
recreation stuff. With social media, hiking has become way more popular, not because of the bonding experience between you and nature, but because you get all the best shots.
The bonding experience between you and Instagram.
Between you and all your friends on Instagram you never met. This beautiful natural landscape with a rich history is in our backyard, and I encourage everyone this spring to go out there in the trails and canyons and lakes and see what kind of high strangeness you get yourself into. Mothman, Flatwoods Monster, you're going to see a chupacabra, a Jersey Devil, Bigfoot. Report back to us.
You'll see a raccoon riding chupacabra.
If you're going, look into something called an adventure pass. It's either to camp or to park, probably both. It's the pass to get it. You can purchase a National Forest adventure pass there's a day one for $5 or an annual $30 one, which is not a bad deal. You can get those in Arcadia. They have the National Forest headquarters, or you can go to like REI or Big 5. They they sell it. And that money goes towards park projects and repairs. Earlier this year, there was a government shutdown, as we all know, which meant that it was open season on punishing the national parks, but there was no reports of damage really in national parks. Finally. Oh, I've been waiting to hit a Joshua tree. Joshua tree got the brunt of most of the attack from
Because
idiots.
everyone pooed on it or whatever.
They were like chopping down Joshua tree arms and stuff.
They were all on peyote. That's what Joshua tree is.
It doesn't make you violent. It might actually.
Well, it does make you poo.
It does make you poo.
ayahuasca.
I like you keep track. You'll never do drugs, but you keep track of what
Which
drugs
ones
will
make you
you
poo.
poo. Yeah. So that's been Angela National Forest. Please go out there.
So you have to pay to get in,
I think so. You either pay to get in, or you pay to like
get out.
park and camp and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I was looking into it, but it's very weird online.
It's
research.
kind of confusing because now I know national parks you have to pay to get in.
Yeah.
Although when we were at Rocky Mountain, we're like, well, here we go. We have to pay $15. And then we got there and like all the ranger stations were abandoned.
Oh,
We're like,
wow.
well, that's a good sign. We get to go in for free. Blood, claw marks everywhere.
There's this guy sleeping on the ground. I don't know. I think he lost so much blood he went to sleep.
Yeah, that's a place I'd like to go. How do you get to Mount Baldy? If it is 10,000 feet, that's very high.
Yeah, it's very high. I have no idea how to get there. I should look that up. I know where it's at.
Do you know the elevation of like Big Bear or something like that?
I don't, but it's not nearly as big as that.
It isn't because 10,000 is very high.
Yeah, it's a
like
pretty
if you
high
because
peak.
trust me, I know this from Colorado.
Oh my God.
Right now we're at like what 300 feet. I can't imagine driving from 300 feet to 10,000 feet.
I Googled Mount Baldy and get there, and it says the elevation is 4,193 feet, not 10,000. Like I copy and pasted from the stupid thing.
You're a liar.
I'm not a liar. I'm misinformed.
So we're at the halfway point here now.
Yeah.
So now we're doing our little change up for this episode, break things up. Too much information. TMI. This is called the TMI break. We're going to do our listener question right now. Our question this month is from Scott Angle. Hey guys.
Hi, Scott.
Hello. Sounds like you want more personal questions for the first segment of the podcast. It's now the middle segment for now.
15 inches.
So here goes. Should I read all of them? Because he's got several. Should we just do a one by one? Let's do
Read
a one
them
by
all.
one. Okay.
And then we'll do one by one.
What's your astrological sign? If you could be an animal, what kind would it be? Boxers or briefs? What's your favorite naiborhood in LA?
Okay.
What's your astrological sign?
I'm Sagittarius, so
Really?
I'm thoughtful and wise, but a little bit fun.
Okay.
And pretty dumb, too. Naive.
Wise, dumb, not thoughtful, not prosperous, poor. I'm Libra.
What's that like?
Ooh,
What's
it's
that been
not
like?
good.
Ooh, not good.
Worried, controlling,
Passionate.
passionate. Yeah, I don't know. Libra is kind of, I don't know, is that the crazy one? It's the balance.
Isn't
I know
it kind
that.
of monkey? It's a lemur.
Yeah, I like the Libra. So if you could be an animal, what kind would it be?
Raccoon.
Because you like trash.
Yeah, they're really cute, but also when you try to like look at them, they like stand on their legs. Oh yeah, you're like a little weirdo. You're a weirdo, huh?
What animal would I be?
Sloth. Some
But
big
yes.
hippo. 'Cause you're a pretty large guy.
I don't know. I've gotten huge since the last episode. Since everyone last saw me.
Stress eating. I gained a lot of weight.
I've been stress eating hippopotami.
Are you asking what I think you are, or what do I think that you would
What
want
do
to be?
you think I am? What do you think I am, and what do you think I would want to be?
I think like a small chimp, like an animal that worries, but also is a little bit fun.
Because I was kind of thinking maybe an orangutan.
Oh, okay.
That's a big chimp that worries.
And it shows that on its face that it
It's all
worries.
about those big wide cheeks.
And always looking at its hands. You're like, dude, its hand, you saw it. Or the last time it came, you were looking at your hand. Unless you're a different orangutan.
I think that's what I would be.
Okay, some type of monkey.
Now, boxers or briefs?
I wear boxer briefs.
Really?
Yeah.
This is gross.
Why?
Because I don't like thinking about your nethers.
So passionate down there.
I do boxers, although I've considered boxer briefs. Because I used to do briefs when I was in like elementary / middle school.
Because they didn't have boxer briefs at the time. If that was an option, I would have taken it.
Yeah, but and then the humiliation was too great, and I had to switch to boxers.
Yeah.
I don't know why it was so like everyone would make fun of you for wearing boxer
Like-
or briefs.
I don't know at all.
Because I would wear nothing else. I would show up to school like Captain Underpants.
it wasn't my.
He was based on me. I wasn't a captain though.
It wasn't my
I was a
skid
sergeant.
marks. Yeah. Boxers were cool when I was like a teenager. And then when I wanted to stop seeing myself in boxers, I'm like, there has to be something. And boxer briefs are wonderful.
I've never tried it. Can I have yours?
Yeah.
You want to swap underwear?
I want to let's swap underwear. Can we both wear mine at the same time? may I suggest boxer briefs, my friend?
I'm not switching my underwear.
Well, when you
wardrobe.
finally grow up, I think they'll be there for you when you grow up.
They'll be waiting for you on the shelf at Marshall's. Trust me, they'll be there. And now the final question: what's your favorite neighborhood in LA? I kind of feel like we almost answered this last month with what neighborhood we would want to move into.
Yeah, Jonathan Sergey also asked us, but let's answer a different answer this time.
Okay, I'm going to say Burbank.
I'm gonna say Torrance.
Wow,
Look at that.
Torrance is interesting.
I like driving around Torrance and cruising around and stuff. I like being close to 405.
There's a lot of good Japanese places in Torrance.
King's Hawaiian restaurants down there. I keep thinking about it.
I don't like their bread.
You're a sucker. And you've always been a sucker, and you're going to die a sucker. And that's just how it is. It's just like a cool tiki-ish.
Because it has that that Hawaiian Japanese flair to it.
Can I recommend a restaurant to people right now?
Oh, please. Oh, he's a King's Hawaiian?
No, it's another Hawaiian. I think it's called the Hawaiian Cafe. It's
Queen's
in
Hawaiian. There's a lot.
Hawaii.
Maui.
Can I recommend Hawaii to people? It's on a little island. I don't know if you ever heard of it before. Hawaiian Cafe in Little Tokyo is really good. It's in a little plaza.
Wait, in Little Tokyo?
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with Torrance.
No, we talked about Hawaiian restaurants.
You're jumping all over the. Let's talk about Burbank for a second.
That's why I asked if it was okay. Go talk about Burbank. I almost lived in Burbank when I was a kid.
You almost what?
I almost lived in Burbank when I was a kid in a house that had a stable. I
Really?
really wanted that. I would have been a completely different person.
There's a.
Maybe happy. I don't know.
I would have been in the Olympics. It's a nice neighborhood.
It is.
It's quiet.
Yeah, you've been going to Geeky Teas a lot, so you're in Burbank more.
I find myself in Burbank way more than I ever thought I would.
Yeah.
And now that I might get AMC A-list, I'll be there even. You hear me, AMC A-list? Give us free subscriptions. We'll promote you. We'll promote you.
Yeah, but do it before Endgame comes out. If you get me a seats for tomorrow night's show, that'd be great.
Anyway, we're not here to talk about Burbank, but there are a lot of nice places there.
Yeah.
If you have a listener question, you can email it to us, la.meekly@gmail.com, or you could send it to us on Instagram, la_meekly.
Any of the social media places.
Any of our social media.
Facebook, search LA Meekly, Twitter,
LA Meekly. And while you're there, follow us on all those things. Also, subscribe to our podcast. Leave a review. Leave some stars. Go on your iPhone app, podcasts. Look for us. Stars.
Baby stars.
We have a YouTube channel, all the episodes, and some special things on there. If you want to support our podcast on Patreon, it really helps us out. For $5 a month, we can send you a handwritten postcard by us. Donate to us on Patreon. It really helps us. It keeps the show going financially. It's nice.
It's nice to have a dream of one day quitting my job. It's nice.
Now let's get back to our regularly scheduled episode.
And we're back.
Those money-grubbing financial whores are gone. Now it's Greg and Daniel.
And we're here to teach you stuff.
Yeah, we're not about the money. We're about the resources. Let's get back into it. There is another place. If you don't want to go to Angeles, maybe there's a place by the sea you might want to visit.
Some old dirty sailor can touch my butt.
Yeah, so some pirates can come over and take a hike, you say? How about take a history lesson and watch the attitude I say? I'm going to be talking about the easy to type out Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area. I'm so sick of writing those, what is that? That's 6 words, 6 big words that I had to keep writing out. And they kept abbreviating it in all the stuff of the SMM, NRA. I'm not writing NRA on anything.
I don't need that search coming up. When the liberals take over, I don't need them to know that I type NRA.
When the liberal police take over. Once Bernie Sanders is elected and he comes after my guns.
We don't have to pay student loans ever again, but what we do have to do is gun loans for our guns and our trucks.
I need my gun to protect myself from your truck.
People hate us and it's fine.
I'm going to talk briefly about the whole area in general, the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area, in case you forgot.
I'm going to talk about briefly the whole area. Briefly, I'm
going to give a brief history of everything really quick, but it's going to take a while. Then I'm going to focus in on one park within this greater mega park that had a lot going on over there. So it's kind of confusing because this one area is comprised of many different parks. It's a park made of parks.
Okay. Like the city is made of neighborhoods. The park is made of parks.
It is. It's like Wild Animal Los Angeles. First things first, what is a national recreation area? It's an area of partly protected land that is based around a body of water for water-based activities and also includes important national and cultural sites. That's the national definition.
The single worst sentence you've ever said in your life.
It's vague. Even by federal government standards, it's so dumb. It's such a stupid distinction. But hey, whatever gives this area less money, I guess they'll call it whatever they want.
Ooh, we can't give you national park money or national forest money.
Yeah, we can give you national water park money, all of the floaties you want, but no actual money.
All of the urine that you didn't agree to get in your body.
All the urine from all the other national parks get shipped out here. So I guess they consider it that because it includes the beaches of Malibu.
Okay.
But it also has a few lakes up in the mountains.
There's lakes up in the
mountains. I don't know what it's referring to, but the water, in one way or another, is what the focus of this place is, according to Uncle Sam.
I'm sorry. I know you don't like to say. Can you say the name of it one more time?
The Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area.
National Recreation Area.
Yeah, the NRA. They're one of only 12 national recreation areas in the country. It's not quite as protected and cherished as a national park, but it's a cut above a city park, even though it contains a few state parks inside of it. But then again, who doesn't?
Don't we all have a state park living in us?
Aren't we all just subsidized by the federal government? It's a rare thing in that it's run by a joint venture between the federal, state, county, and local governments, which sounds like a nightmare, but it works somehow. What matters is how massive this whole area is. It covers 153,075 acres that stretches across 5 zip codes. So 2/3 of the area of the NRA is in LA County and the rest is in Ventura County in its entirety, because it has kind of a weird shape that like snakes through other areas that aren't part of it. It stretches from the naval base in Ventura to a strip of mountains just above the Hollywood Bowl to the 101, touching the 101.
Oh my God, that area that the freeway cuts off?
Yeah. Like that's just kind of like a tentacle sticking through there,
Okay.
but yeah, that's all part
Wow.
of it. You can start there and end up at the naval base in Ventura while never leaving the NRA.
The NRA, wow.
Which if you're going to the naval base, obviously, it's the biggest urban national park in the entire world.
Wow.
Like I said, the majority, the majority of it really, it's above Pacific Palisades. That's where it really starts.
Okay.
That's where the bulk starts, and then going east to the naval base that's the meat of it.
Okay.
The mountain range is over 50 miles long, runs east to west instead of north to south, which is rare for a mountain range in the United States. It used to stand over 10,000 feet high, just like you thought, just like Mount Baldy.
I must have been talking about that.
I must have been reading your notes. So it used to be over 10,000 feet high, but much like my grandpa, it's slowly been eroded down to just 3,111 feet. My grandpa's a giant. It's home to over 1,000 plant species, including oak, sycamore, some redwoods that we'll get into, and over 500 types of animals, including lizards, frogs, snakes, turtles, vultures, owls, falcons, eagles, quails, bats, coyotes, bobcats, deer, rabbits, skunk, mountain lions, and of course, boobies.
Get those boobies out of here.
Cover those boobies.
Cover those boobies up.
What? Were you going to launch into a Benny Hill?
No.
You're going to run around the classroom?
Boobies was our theme of the month.
No, you said it. Being an urban park, it's also very accessible. There are over 500 miles of trails inside the recreation area. The crown jewel of this being the Backbone Trail. It has 12 trailheads, but you can start at the eastern end at the Will Rogers Trailhead in Pacific Palisades and take it the full 67 miles west to the Ray Miller Trailhead in Point Mugu.
Wow.
I've never pronounced it Mugu. Point Mugu. No. It must be Mugu.
How's it spelled?
It's not Mr. Magoo. Which came first? Let's have Bruno correct us. Point Magoo.
Like Magoo.
Magoo. M-U-G-U. Magoo.
No, I like Mugu. It makes you sound dumber.
Mugu Gai Pan. Mugu Gai Park. This is not recommended to do in one fell swoop by the Park Service because first of all, it's insane. But more importantly, there's nowhere to camp along the trail and you're not supposed to be camping outside of designated campsites.
Yeah.
There are ranger-led hikes of this trail that you do in sections at a time, 2 Saturdays a month over 4 months. It goes in elevation, it'll go from 25 feet to the highest 3,111 feet. And you've got to be on a wait list to join this program because a lot of people want to do it. The Backbone Trail, it was first proposed in the 1970s. It wasn't completed until 2016. It got patched together piece by piece from trails that already existed that they connected because people own land here. So they had to basically, as funding and money came in, they were able to connect it more. And the city got more and more control over the land. The first piece was the 1944 trail in Will Rogers State Historic Park, all the way to more celebrities in 2014 when James Cameron sold his land in the area. And then the final stretch of land that was needed was donated by washed up celebrity bodybuilders Betty Whiter and Arnold Schwarzenegger. So they were the missing piece.
Wow, really?
The recreation area itself came together just jigsaw-like like that. Before the 1970s, of course, nobody cared about the environment. So all that land was just private property. But the city started getting ideas in the late 50s, early 60s to use the canyons up there as landfills and then put golf courses on top of that so that rich people can play and live there.
Wow, that's trash piled on top of trash.
Oh,
take
snap.
that. I'm sorry, all the golf listeners out there. I'm sorry.
Oh, there goes our sponsorship from the PGA. Thanks, Greg.
Passionate Golf Association.
Another idea was to put a nuclear power plant up there.
All winning idea. It's so funny that mine...
Nuclear on top of nuclear, am I right?
My story is about like, it's the history, and yours is like, well, they were gonna build a golf course, but then they were talked out of it by a nuclear power plant.
Yeah,
this is like so LA compared to mine.
Oh, it gets even more LA.
I love it.
Slowly though, just everyday people who will be completely forgotten by history in 10 years from now started to stand up to the city and urge them to protect the mountains from development. So there was a guy named Marvin Broad who kept pestering the city to buy parts of the mountains, but the city council wasn't listening to him, and then the idea started floating around that, hey, maybe we should build a freeway through the mountains, but people were so anti-freeway at the time, like we learned last month, that he decided, I'm just going to run for office and oppose this. And he won because anyone who was against a freeway was going to be voted for.
Yeah.
Then there were people like Sue Nelson and Jill Swift. These are all people who will never get a statue made of them, but they were just regular people who like nature. So they started volunteer organizations to protect the mountains. They led hikes to show people how nice it is up here. Wouldn't it be bad if there was a nuclear power plant? They stood up to the government. There was the March on Mulholland in 1971 when 5,000 people protested the paving of part of Mulholland Drive, and they won. So the public opinion was shifting against defiling the land.
Tarnishing.
Yeah. Then in 1972, the Coastal Zone Conservation Act was passed, and then in 1976, the California Coastal Act. Then finally in 1977, a U.S. representative from Woodland Hills named Anthony Bielenson drafted a bill for the creation of a Santa Monica Mountains National Park. So it would have been a national park, like a full-on Yellowstone, Yosemite National Park.
This is nice.
Yeah.
That's what they were going for.
Yeah.
This is going to be a nice thing.
This is
Nice.
good for us. That he made in tandem with Sue Nelson, a name I mentioned 20 seconds ago that you probably already forgot. This bill got absorbed into a bigger bill that was being pushed at the time, and the area was downgraded from national park to recreation area. But on November 10th, 1978, it passed, and the NRA was created. Since this was a joint effort between so many different agencies, literally everyone had their own idea of what
Yeah,
should be included.
that's awful.
But in the end, they decided, let's just do everything. Let's put everything everybody wants. Let's just make it. And piece by piece, all those areas were either bought or donated to the many organizations that run this.
That worked.
So the area, it's made up of several parks and areas within the greater park. The largest of these is Topanga State Park, which covers 5% of all of Los Angeles City. But the one I'm going to be focusing on isn't that one, because that one's filled with aliens, as we've learned. I'm going to be talking about Malibu Creek State Park.
Okay.
That's the one I'm zeroing in on. This particular area is 7,881 acres and is named after Malibu Creek, which runs 14 miles and ends in Malibu Lagoon. It opened as a public park on July 10th, 1976. It's considered to be one of the most beautiful parts of the park, which is why it's sometimes referred to as the Yosemite of Southern California.
Wow.
There's chaparral pastures. There's savanna. There's a volcanic swimming hole. Castro Peak is in there, which is the highest peak in the Los Angeles section of the mountains, which is 2,826 feet. The area is a southern Mediterranean biome, which is one of only 5 in the world.
Really?
Yeah. You can ride bikes in there. You can rock climb. You can kayak and ride horses, camp, take bird walks with the San Fernando Valley Audubon Society. The Audubon was going to be built there also. But who was here first? Native Americans.
Yeah.
Up to this point in LA Meekly lore, we've only really talked about the Keech people that lived in what is now LA. But their border, the Keech border, ended in the Topanga State Park area, and from there west it was Chumash.
Yeah.
The earliest Chumash settlements in the Santa Monica Mountains were around 8400 BC, and over the years a lot of small villages formed within what is now the park that we're talking about. The biggest and most important of these was known as Tolopop, which was in the northeast part of what is now Malibu Creek State Park and Liberty Canyon. So that's where it was. It only had like 40 people living in it, but as the Chumash always said, location, location, location. It was nestled between a ton of natural resources and also a natural trail that connected it easily to the inland villages. It was also strongly tied to another village near the mouth of Malibu Creek that was called Humaliwu, which meant it makes a loud noise all the time over there, referring to the ocean and my neighbors. This village was later called Umalibu by the Spanish and is now known as Malibu by the ultra white.
Now they're the loud noise over there.
Yeah, they became the Malibu. That's where the name Malibu came from. So Talapop became basically the cultural center of the southeastern Chumash territories. There are still some holes carved in the rocks around this area that were used as mortar and pestles 5,000 years ago. A lot of trails you can take in the park were actually, those are Chumash trails.
Really?
That were going, they would go from village to village. But of course, the Spanish can't allow that to last very long.
You guys having a good time? Cut it out!
They start kicking the trails. No!
This should be a Bible. This should be a Bible.
This should be a path of Bible. Talapop's first contact with the Spanish came in 1542 when Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo came a-knocking. And if Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo's a-knocking...
Please don't answer the door. Please don't answer the door.
As we know, it took a couple hundred years before more white people showed up, which is, this, as we've discussed, must have been an insane experience
it's very insane.
for the Chumash. But eventually, Talapop was visited by more and more Spanish explorers who mentioned it in their writings, including possibly Gaspar de Portola. Once it was established established, Mission San Fernando kept very close tabs on Talapop between 1797 and 1805, when a lot of residents in the area, here's the word they used, they were recruited to San Fernando Mission. They were drafted.
Oh my God.
They were free agents.
Oh no, your draft card came in. Wow, everyone in the town got drafted.
And there's no trails because we replaced them with Bibles.
Step on the Bibles to get to the church, and then you can
beg for forgiveness.
Beg for forgiveness for stepping on a Bible.
But by now we're in the thick of the Spanish era at this point. In 1801 or 02, Spain gave the land that Talapop was on and the entire surrounding area to a man named Bartolome Miguel Ortega, who was actually an indigenous person from Mexico, and his wife was Chumash herself from Santa Rosa Island. So they took as good of care of the Chumash people on what was now their land as good as they could, and they became their sponsors, as they called it.
Okay.
But by 1805, all the Chumash of Talapop had been baptized as Christians and were either living at the mission or working on Ortega's ranch, which was Rancho Santa Gertrudis de las Virgenes, which is why the main road over there is Las Virgenes.
Oh, duh. Okay.
Comes from that.
Wow.
The Virgins.
The Virgins.
Driving for the very first time. So Ortega died in 1809 and his family moved to the Pueblo downtown. So the ranch got abandoned until 1817 when Mission San Fernando said, oh, let's just take it. It's ours now.
Yeah. I have an idea.
Mine. It became a pasture for their cows. La vacas, the most passionate of animals. Some people were still living at Talapop as late as 1824, but by that point, the Chumash way of life was over.
Yeah.
It was Talapop by name only.
Yeah.
As we know, when Mexico took over, they
gentrified.
Were not fans of the missions. So in 1833, the rancho was taken away from San Fernando and given to two men named Domingo Carrillo and Nemesio Dominguez. Then when the United States took over, they were not fans of the people who Mexico had given the land to. So all the land grants had to be reviewed and confirmed by the federal government, which literally took decades. So by the 1850s, while all this was getting decided, homesteaders started showing up around Malibu Creek, setting up their own farms and ranches in small communities, basically squatting and hoping the government would say, you squatted pretty well.
Yeah.
This is yours.
I like where you squatted here.
I like the squat of your jib. One such place was the Sepulveda adobe built in 1863 by Don Pedro Alcantara Sepulveda. He would bring oak firewood and charcoal from his land to the rich people downtown on his wagon along the route that would become the 101. This was a 3-day round trip journey to do this. You have to remember, this was a very secluded, this was like another world.
Yeah.
It was basically you were living in another country when you lived in those mountains. People were living in the Sepulveda adobe as late as 1980, and it got pretty badly damaged by the Northridge earthquake. It had an original mulberry tree that Sepulveda planted there still standing. We'll get into later what happened to that place last year. So this
I can predict already.
This whole something purifies something. So this whole area was just being grabbed and divided up by anyone hardy enough to want to live out there. But in 1896, a large part of this area was assumed by Edward C. and Edward R. Stokes.
How do they feel about it?
They're C and R. Stokes. They decided later in the 1920s, let's start drilling for oil here. And they found nothing. So on August 26, 1926, they sold it to the next big owner of this area.
An oil company.
Edward Doheny. King Camp Gillette. That's his name. And you know who he is.
Remind me.
The best a man can sell land to. Gillette, as you might have guessed.
You're kidding.
Gillette of the Gillette Razor Company. He invented the disposable safety razor in 1901 and became one of the richest men in America. But by the 20s, he was ready to retire into obscurity and wanted a place that was like Malibu, but without the fog, and like the valley, but without the heat. And this area... Just right. The Razor Man came and lived on the land that used to be the Native American village of Talapop. He had a massive house designed by Wallace Neff, who had also done Pickfair in the Falcon's Lair. Okay. It had 25 rooms, elaborate gardens. It was kind of shaped like a W, complete with an outside barbecue area for parties and a car court. It was finally completed in 1929, and just a few months after Gillette moved in, the Depression hit. And he had to sell off most of his assets, but he managed to keep the house, but he had like nothing else.
He had to sell his W and just be a V.
Yeah. He spent these last few years of his life reminiscing about his old dream of forming a socialist world corporation in Arizona headed by Teddy Roosevelt and building a utopian, completely socialist society in Niagara Falls. That was his dream.
The man who created the Gillette razors.
And everyone will be clean cut.
Not a single facial hair on anybody.
But in 1932, he died, and 3 years later, his wife, whose name is Atlanta, sold the house to Clarence Brown, who was the director of Wynn in Rome, and Anna Karenina, who added a small airport on the property for his celebrity friends to fly in and party.
Wow.
So anybody who was anybody was coming and now partying on what used to be Telepop, formerly the Razor King's house.
This is like what's happening at Echo Park. Third wave gentrification.
Yeah, and it gets
Upsetting
weirder every time.
Exactly. It becomes an uglier version of it, less distinguishable from its original self.
But by 1952, this party was over and it was sold to the exact opposite of a Hollywood director party man, the Missionary Sons of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, also known as the Claretians because they liked its secluded location and they called it Claretville.
Oh, okay.
Well, you know Claretville?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Really? Again, these are all areas I've never heard of.
Claretville sounds
I've heard of
familiar.
Malibu once or twice. Unfortunately, the location was so secluded that the students there who did not sign up to be cloistered monks, they would go out on a missionary trip and they would be so enamored with the outside world that they just wouldn't come back.
Wow.
So less than 7% of their students stuck with the faith. Then in 1968, it became a day camp for children with disabilities called Harmony Center. Then in 1977, it was bought by the Church Universal and Triumphant, which made it their headquarters until 1986 when it was sold to Soka University. Then finally in 2005, it was bought by the park itself and was put to its noblest use yet, the filming location of The Biggest Loser. I think we know who The Biggest Loser is here. Gillette.
I'm so happy you didn't say me. I was waiting for it. I have a blood capsule in my mouth and you were going to say it and I was going to spit up blood and you didn't say it.
But it is you. As of 2010, the Gillette House has been used as a visitor center, but Gillette was just one rich guy who lived in the Malibu Creek Park area. By 1910, work on roads to get into the area had begun, so it made it more accessible enough, but exclusive enough to attract the rich of LA who wanted to live outside the city, which was becoming a fashionable thing at the time. So by the 20s, aside from just Gillette, there were a bunch of permanent homes being built up there for the ultra rich and gentleman ranchers, who were rich guys who owned ranches that ran them for pleasure and not profit.
Oh, I see.
Pleasure ranches, bunny ranches, if you will.
The word
dude ranches. One such of these places was the Mott Adobe, built by, he invented the disposable apple juice. No, it's not him.
It's not him. He doesn't need applesauce. He doesn't do it. Seriously, though, he did. He is Mott the Hoopoe, though.
He was a rich lawyer named Johnny Mott, just almost Johnny Appleseed, if you think about it, who used to have Herbert Hoover stay over there a lot. All that's left of it now is the fireplace and a corset Hoover left behind.
Fireplace purifies all.
The biggest and richest of these big rich places to stay was...
Wait, sorry. I'm getting cold. The biggest...
Greg's putting on his velour jumpsuit.
Oh, when I shiver, you'll hear it.
The biggest and richest of the big rich places, Craig's Country Club. It's just started in 1900 when a bunch of rich white guys bought 2,000 acres of land there, and in 1903 built a 50-foot high dam that formed a 7-acre lake that they put a bunch of trout in, so they could go and trout fish and then hunt the ducks that would flock to the trout.
Wow. An ambush.
And then the people that would come to pet the ducks, they would hunt them.
And then the EMTs that came to take care of the people, they got shot.
And then the Angel of Death who slew the EMT. These are also the guys who planted those redwoods I was talking about. They wanted it to look nicer.
Yeah.
But the trips out here were hard in those days. So in 1910, they built a 3-story Bavarian Alp-style lodge, complete with pool, tennis court, dance floor, 10 bedrooms.
Wow.
Members who stayed here included John Griffith Mott, Johnny Mott, Johnny Applesauce, William May Garland, who ran the 1932 Olympics.
Yeah, I knew that name.
Henry O'Melveny,
O'Melveny,
Park.
yeah.
William Wales Mines of Minesfield, that later became LAX. These were all members here.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
really?
well, you'll hear about Mines a little bit. Here was the problem, though. Dues to join the club were $1,000, so it was prohibitively expensive to join, and all the members...
Look at my face. Describe it.
You're nodding and saying, as if to say, chump change.
You're showing me $1,000 in your pocket right now.
Here's the thing. It was so expensive, and all the members were well over 50 when the club started. So as the years went on and these people got older, the 2-hour journey on unpaved roads all the way out to Malibu Creek, they're not going to...
Yeah.
I'm a 70-year-old man. I'm not doing that.
I take 40 bathroom breaks every 15 minutes, and you're going to make me do a trip.
You're going to make me get on this carriage? So one by one, the members stopped coming and the club died slowly, just like they did.
Yeah.
By 1936, the clubhouse was officially abandoned. William Mines, however, wouldn't give up on the dream. He continued to come to the area to fish until 1939. He was sitting on top of the dam fishing, fell into the exclusive lake and drowned.
Get out. Really? That's what happened to Mines?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was the end of his... He fell into a man-made lake that he built and was probably eaten by trout.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I'm really liking how the farther we go along, we tie up these weird loose
the
ends.
Yeah. The ending I never knew I wanted. So all that's left of the clubhouse now is the foundation and Herbert Hoover's bustier. That's a callback to a joke that you didn't
was
hear
talking
before.
through,
You'll hear it later when you listen to yourself talking again.
I'm sure it's well crafted and very funny.
A little time jump before we get into the next big thing that the park was known for. In the 50s, there was briefly a professional racetrack in Malibu Creek State Park. It was built by an auto racing company who bought part of the land and built a 2-mile track that was considered to be one of the hardest in the United States.
Really?
But that wasn't a good thing. It only held 7 races total between August 1956 and April 1957. Why, you ask?
Why, I ask?
One weekend, they started their scheduled races on Saturday and a crash happened. Nobody was injured. They said, well, let's keep racing. A guy was going around the first turn, flipped his car and died. That's the end of the races for today. Then they decided, Sunday's a new day. Let's try racing again. Guy was taking a turn, flew out of his car and died.
Wow.
That was the last race this place ever held. They lost their insurance and were shut down after 7 races.
Bold.
And it's
to try that second day.
Yep.
Pretty bold.
And this place is like romanticized by a lot of people in that area. Like, oh, the races.
I bet it's just like a perfect circle. Like racetracks are supposed to be like ovals. I bet this was a perfect circle.
No, but I think the problem was because it's a mountain. You're like going up.
Oh,
it was this like
yeah.
crazy track.
It's like the hard levels on Mario Kart.
Yeah. The tracks are still mostly there if you want to relive that part of history. But now
Boys like racing.
Now on to what Malibu Creek State Park is best known for worldwide. The movies they filmed there.
Of course.
That's why this is the park of LA, the forest of LA.
Yeah.
Sorry. The closest
The
thing.
recreation area of LA.
The National Recreation, the NRA of LA.
Yeah.
Because of course, the closest things to untarnished nature in LA have to also be strongly affiliated with movies. One of the main draws of the movie industry to come to LA was the climate and the scenery because it was so undeveloped and varied. It could be used to double for any location you would ever need.
Yeah.
A lot of this could be done on the back lots of movie studios, but as movies got more involved and the ante for audiences have to be upped creatively, your end game.
Yeah, your Gunsmoke and your Andy Griffith.
The end game of its day. Productions took to going outside the studios for a more open world, realistic look. Problem was, if they wanted to go on location, they would have to pay union workers extra money if the filming was done more than 35 miles from the studio, so they didn't want to go too far. Luckily, Los Angeles had tons of open space well within 35 miles, but the studios also didn't want to share, so each of them started buying up land in different undeveloped parts of the city and turning them into movie ranches where they could film on them whenever they wanted.
Spawn Ranch.
This practice started in the 20s, and by 1924, the Mulholland Highway opened up, making access to Malibu Creek State Park much easier. So then they started coming there. The first movie known to be filmed in Malibu Creek was in 1919 called Daddy Longlegs, starring Mary Pickford.
Oh boy,
Yep.
She's
got her daddy long legs,
daddy long legs
all
and
over
everything.
this city. Things were being filmed up there, but in 1927, Paramount decided to relocate their ranch in North Hollywood to there. So they bought 2,700 acres from the former Rancho Las Virgenes to set up a new Paramount movie ranch. They used this land to build huge sets recreating ancient Rome, early American Salem, Imperial China, a full Swiss village. They had these crazy big sets there.
Yeah.
They filmed Island of Lost Souls here,
Wow,
and
really?
also It's a Gift.
Really?
Yeah, that was
funny.
filmed there.
That was filmed there.
American classic.
A movie made up of good scenes.
A string of good scenes for an hour and a half. They did a ton of movies there. They used to have 8 permanent sets on the land and a commissary that was feeding 500 people a day.
Wow.
So there was a big operation there. In 1943, Paramount sold the ranch to a guy named Esser Vilcombe for $40,000, but Paramount continued to lease the land for filming purposes. Then in 1953, a guy named William Hertz bought part of the ranch, and Hertz was a big fan of Westerns, so he decided to buy a bunch of leftover Western sets from the RKO ranch in Encino and created a full Old West town.
Wow.
That is now referred to when people use the phrase Paramount Ranch.
Really? That's Paramount Ranch.
That's Paramount.
Wow.
We'll get to that, but
That was Paramount Ranch.
it's all just exteriors, but it had all the buildings and settings any Western production needed, which was exactly what Hertz was counting on when he built it. He was hoping if you build it, they'll come renting. So the studios would come to him and rent it out for filming. They did that. He was cleaning up. It was mainly used for Western TV shows, so pretty much any of the Old West TV shows you've seen were there.
Your Gunsmokes, your Lone Rangers.
Your Andy Griffith show. Most recently, it was the main set for Westworld.
I met a sign painter who did a lot of the signs
Really?
for Westworld, and he told us like he has free
influx
time
of
now.
work.
He has free time.
The Western movies used a Western set that Paramount actually had elsewhere in the park, but the fake old ranch, it claimed the rights to having been used in both Blast from the Past and Norbit. they got those two movies. Also, the music video for Ringo Starr and Buck Owens' Act Naturally. The National Park Service bought the land Paramount used to own piece by piece over the years to fold it into the park, but the Old West Paramount Ranch actually got on the National Register of Historic Places, and the National Park Services built it up as a tourist attraction. We'll get to what happened to it last year. The other major player in Malibu Creek State Park was 20th Century Fox. The first movie they filmed there was Brigham Young in 1940, but they liked the area so much their plan was actually to move their entire studio into Malibu Creek State Park and have that as their permanent base. So 20th Century Fox would have been a mountain movie studio, but that was stupid.
Like a Bond villain.
Yeah, they just ended up buying 2,500 acres in 1946 to use, and this land they bought was bought from the Craig's Country Club, so that's the continuation of that. They got Mine's Body also. Use this as much as you want.
Do with this what you will.
That's why that lake and dam that were left over that he died in from the Country Club are now called Century Dam and Century Lake for 20th Century Fox. The clubhouse itself, it was torn down by Fox in 1955 because it was getting in too many shots and ruining them. Some of the movies filmed in this area by Fox and just anyone in general. Tora Tora Tora. Some of the Tarzan movies. How Green Was My Valley. Viva Zapata. Dr. Dolittle. Love Me Tender. Mr. Blanding Builds His Dream House, which had Paul R. Williams as the advisor, and the Dream House is now used as an administrative building.
Wow.
Pleasantville. Frankenstein. The Great Dictator. Twin Peaks. Roots. The jumping in the river scene from Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. The Planet of the Apes village was on the banks of Century Lake.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. And of course, the MASH TV show.
L.A. Meekley's own MASH TV show reference.
Suicide is Painless's own MASH TV show. MASH filmed there from 1972 to 83, and they love to promote that. Rumor has it that the cast of MASH buried a time capsule of the show somewhere of the property when they filmed the last episode, so grab your shovel.
I want Radar's stethoscope.
The Fox Ranch was bought by California in 1974 and folded into the park, so since then the shooting there has been done by permission, but as the years went on, too many movies were filmed there, and the scenery, everyone was recognizing, that's Planet of the Apes, I recognize this. So they started that, and because filming outside of California was becoming cheaper, so production started to back away from that area. The last big movie to film there was Wind Talkers in 2002.
I remember Wind Talkers.
Never forget Wind Talkers.
Never forget.
Now for the bad stuff. 2018 was not a good year for Malibu Creek State Park.
That was last year.
That was about 1 year ago. To start, on June 22nd, 2018, a man named Tristan Baudet was camping with his 2 and 4-year-old daughters when at around 4:40 a.m. he was shot through the head in his tent while he was sleeping, killed in front of his daughters. The shot came from far away. Nobody knew what happened. After the news of this broke, other people started coming out saying that when they were camping in Malibu Creek State Park, they had also either heard what sounded like gunshot noises or found some of their stuff looking like it had been shot.
Yeah.
There were a total of 10 of these incidents that dated back to November 3rd, 2016. That was when a guy named James Rogers woke up from camping in Tapia Park. He heard a loud bang and he had shotgun shrapnel all over his arm. The most recent one had been 4 days before Baudet was killed when a guy found his Tesla was shot up. None of these incidents had been fatal until Baudet, so the park and police had given very little information out to the public about this, which is why Baudet's wife sued LA and California for $90 million for not letting people know there was a danger out there, but they still didn't know who did it. And there was still a murderer on the loose somewhere in Malibu Creek State Park.
That was a weird couple months.
That was a very weird few months. And it wasn't radar. Then in October 2018, there had been a string of burglaries in Malibu, and in the security footage they had of this guy, they noticed he was always carrying a rifle.
I should ask him if he knows any shooters.
Have you seen any suspicious activity, man with rifle? So they mobilized and searched the park, and eventually they found this guy living out in the wild with his stolen food supplies and his rifle. His name was Anthony Rauda, and when they tested his gun, they found it matched all the previous incidents. It turned out for the past 2 years, he had been living in the park stalking campers and hikers with his gun. He claimed to be a survivalist and would sleep outside, break into people's homes when he needed supplies, which if you're a survivalist, you shouldn't rely on other people to provide your supplies.
Here's what I'm doing in the apocalypse. Rob houses.
I'm going to rob everybody during the apocalypse. He would just pick random targets and shoot at them, which is terrifying. They were called targets of opportunity.
Wow.
He was found to be connected with a shooting at a woman driving on Thousand Oaks Boulevard in 2010 and was charged with the murder of Baudet and 10 other counts of attempted murder. There were a couple other incidents in Malibu Creek State Park over the years that aren't believed to be linked to Rauda, that are just as scary scary. In 2009, a woman named Miltress Richardson got detained at the Lost Hills police station for not paying her bill at a restaurant, but she got released a little after midnight.
Oh, I heard about
You've heard this is a weird one.
This was on My Favorite Murder.
Really? Yeah. I wanted to cover
I wanted
it.
credit.
She got released a little bit after midnight and drove home. Wasn't seen again until 2010, but she was just a corpse at that point.
Yeah.
This case is still unsolved. Then in May 2018, a 52-year-old man was found in a drainage ditch near the big Hindu temple up there, dead of stab wounds to the chest and neck. No explanation as well.
Wow.
Then shortly after the Rauda incident, the big one that the NRA, this was the big one they were waiting for, the Woolsey fire. You, of course, remember coughing for about 4 months straight.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
November 8th, 2018, the fire started near the Santa Susana Field Lab in Simi Valley and quickly spread south, burning almost 100,000 acres. The numbers get kind of confusing because of all the different agencies that control the park, but 53% of the entire land in the Santa Monica Mountains was burned by the fire. It was the most destructive fire the recreation area has ever had to deal with. It burned down the old Sepulveda adobe, Ronald Reagan's ranch that he used to own up there. He called it Yearling Row. It destroyed 3 of the major bridges of the Backbone Trail. So after that finally opening after 40 years, it had to shut down again. Most of the MASH area was burned, not radar. The Paramount Ranch Western set burned to the ground. The only parts that remained were the old train station and the church, which is why I believe the Woolsey fire was just a publicity stunt for the new season of Westworld. There was also
No one will say it.
No
one has the balls to say it except Al A. Meekley.
My name isn't Al A. Meekley. Albert Meekley. There was also an archive up there that had a ton of old documents about the history of the area.
Great.
All that was lost.
Great.
They plan to rebuild the ranch with the help of the movie studios by 2021. There was also a book written by a guy named Brian Rooney called 3 Magical Miles that seemed like it had a ton of good history for this area that I wanted for research. All available copies got burned in the fire.
Wow.
Saddest of all, we lost a lot of wild animals, the orangutans. We lost the mountain lions P74 and P64.
Rest in peace.
Rest in P.
Rest in P. Rest in P22.
Who knows how many other animals that we weren't tracking?
Yeah.
Because even if the fire didn't get them, their ecosystems were destroyed.
Yes.
So the animals were dying slowly for months afterwards.
It was the Woolsey fire where they took photos of all the animals on the beach, right?
Yeah. Well, those were like the horses and stuff, but the beach got burned. I don't understand it, but the beach got burned.
We were talking about that for like a day. Like, how did the beach burn? Like, how does sand burn?
The fire closed the entire park for a month, but it could take 10 to 20 years for a complete recovery and several years until a lot of the trails are even going to be reopened. They say there's still interesting stuff to see even after the fire.
From a distance.
Yeah. It smells weird because new types of plants grow only after fires, and some of the oak trees are going to start growing together in clumps because of it. So there will be like oak trees with 8 trunks fused together.
Like
so come for the freak show now.
Yeah.
But this sort of fire isn't good for the area. Big fires are good once every 100 years.
Yeah.
Now we're getting them up there every 20 years or so, and that just promotes the growth of plants known as flashy fuels, which are just weeds that are very flammable. That causes even more fires.
Right.
So on the positive side, fires like this do burn away ancient brush and expose more of the ancient history of the place. The fire hit 568 known Chumash sites, including 6 villages. 229 of those were in the Santa Monica Mountains. So the Chumash Fire Department from Santa Ynez came to help fight the fire, but also protect their cultural sites and see what artifacts turned up. But my park will go on. They're still going to be holding the Topanga Banjo and Fiddle Festival at Paramount.
High five to
One
that.
more. Ooh. Hopefully they're going to do Scaremount Ranch this Halloween, but I don't know if they're still going to do that. On top of that, I just read this. Representative Adam Schiff and Senators Dianne Feinstein and Kamala Harris have been trying to introduce a bill to add the rim of the valley, which is pretty much all the hills around the valley, to the Santa Monica Mountains NRA, which would add 191,000 acres of land to the park.
Okay.
Either way, I'll only go up in those mountains if I don't have to wake up early and I don't sweat a lot. I'm not going.
You're going to do both. That's the only way to go up in those mountains, up in them hills.
You better start sweating. There's a lot of nature out there. I normally don't like hiking, but the more I'm reading about this, like, I'd like to see a lake.
Yeah, I'd like to see a lake. And not in the book.
Not in those scenes I get from When I Shine. I'd like to see a real live lake.
Oh my God, you're reading The Shining, and it's upsetting.
It shows.
It shows.
All reading The Shining and no play make Daniel reference The Shining a lot.
I was thinking as I was reading it that I'd like to have gone more into it if I had free time and not, all my free time was going towards doing research, to had gone inside and seen some of the spots. I would like to see the East Fork. I'd like to see Bridge of Nowhere. I'd like to see a lot of that stuff, the Chileo Flats. And
I'm so upset because I went to the Paramount Ranch on a field trip or something when I was really young.
You had your eyes closed the entire time because
I didn't want to spoil anything. I didn't want to see how Gunsmoke ended. I went there a really long time ago, and it was almost one of those things of like, did that really happen?
Yeah.
I always wanted to go back, and now it's gone.
Yeah, that's awful.
It sucks. Like that was fun. Like I remember it being really cool to walk around in an old west town in the middle of a park.
It's like Knott's Berry Farm, but it doesn't suck.
I almost agreed to that.
I almost high-fived on that.
That feels like a low five to me. Like this fire was just horrible. Like
devastating.
It was almost gunning for Santa Monica Mountains.
Yeah.
Like, I'm coming for you.
I'm coming, baby.
It destroyed 53% of the area. Like it really wiped stuff out.
They weren't simultaneous, but there was like 3 or 4 fires that were like the worst fires that we'd ever seen.
Oh no, scratch that. This one. Scratch that. This one.
Because it was like Burbank, Woolsey, the one in Paradise, and the one.
And also, there was the shooting, because that shooting happened like a week before the Woolsey fire, which came a month before the guy was killing people in the park. Like that was a bad time for that area.
It really was, yeah.
And there's also a little town that is in the recreation area, but we didn't have time to cover it. It's called like Cornell or something like that. And there's like a biker steakhouse. Like there's like these weird little areas that are kind of cool.
That's how Angela National Forest is. I think like around by the Bridge of Nowhere, I think that there's like a little Grizzly Cafe restaurant that I'm like, I have to go there.
I would love to go to a Grizzly Cafe.
I know.
Any closing thoughts, Greg?
I want to go hiking virtually.
I want to take the Google hike that we were talking about. The Backbone Trail sounds kind of cool, but like I'm not committing 2 Saturdays a month to do that.
Unsupervised hikes is my favorite. I want the
unsupervised, no water.
Yeah, and
I forage.
So when I go missing, like David Pleiss is suggesting that I will, nothing will be found of me.
All that will be left will be my crinkly jacket.
You'll find my jacket
rustling in the
wind.
Well, that was our forest episode. Go out there, spring has sprung, enjoy nature before it gets deathly hot to do any of this stuff.
Go before things are on fire.
Yeah. So have a nice May, Mother's Day.
To all the moms out there listening, my mom in particular, not your mom because she doesn't know you do this, but my mom, have a good one.
Hags, Mom. And that's been yet another episode of LA Meekly, the most passionate podcast since 2013.
Let's high five on 2013. Okay. Ready?
Yeah. Passion. That was an interesting squeeze of air we just